Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of The Lifting. We are actually retouching on some old information that we've done before. You've seen us do episodes in the past where we are retouching on older information and adding new perspectives and perceptions onto this and other things we've learned based upon that particular topic or material. So with this today, we are touching on basic protections. And what we will do is we'll rattle off a few, and then we will do separate little videos on our subscription base that show the different types of protection and what to do with them. So we figured this was a way, because this is such a broad protection is such a broad topic. Just like we did grounding with Allison and Jason, and we couldn't even begin to cover the breadth of even that. And that is a form of protection in of itself. So as you can see, it all kind of links back to authenticity, also links back into protection as well. So they all roads lead to Rome after a while. So with that said, Joanne will do the affirmation and blessing, and we can continue on from that point.
Okay, welcome everyone here. We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. I pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved one, to let the healing energies in. Let them love you and nourish you and bring you to your highest good. I pray for myself and Chris, our friends and family, again, to let the healing energies in, to love us, to nourish us, and to bring us to our highest good. I invite in now all benevolent family members, benevolent guides, benevolent races, all those that can hear my voice that are benevolence with no conflicting agenda, to please join us and allow for this conversation to occur in grace and with the intention that it is truly set out to be. I ask for malevolence at this time to be swept away, to be pushed away, to not allow for any influencing of this conversation at all. With that, I hope you accept and can feel the genuineness of this blessing, the genuineness for your highest good, the genuineness for the importance of this conversation. And with that agreement, to please say amen, or so be it.
Be it, and so it is. Okay, there we go. On that, not surprisingly, does clear a lot of the junk out of the visual space. And I'm also getting in the habit of doing this during sessions as well, because it seems to be the highest ordinance of the land here. So if anything comes close,
agreement between souls. So I think,
yeah,
again, instead of always thinking there's implied consent amongst a group, what you want to do is create that bond at the time. So in any get together, in any meeting, in any place,
have them say so be it in their own way. Yeah,
and say something in similar realm. Acknowledge that there is both things for your highest good and things not. Ask for the conversations to go, smoothly, and invite in those that will help join in to raise the energies. Do that, but also remember that you want to ask for things not of your highest good, or things that are going to try to interfere, to be swept away, to allow for the conversation. So start doing this if you are involved with get-togethers, and you will feel an immediate, when I mean immediate difference, you will feel it. And again, at the end, close your conversation off. Do that as well, and you'll find
close that circle up. Yeah,
yeah, you'll find that things run much smoother as well. So
yeah, it seems that the law of one, the prayer, not the book series, that's more AI oriented, and the prayer is what is needed, and it is more, it's closer to, and this falls under a form of protection. I'll just start with this. It seems that it's closer to more of kind of a concept of what people would think as universal law. It's like this, basically, when one of harms, all are harmed type of scenario. One is helped, all are helped. You can actually say that we are all individuals with our own I am presences, our own oversouls, our own path. But yes, we have a common bond. So yeah, this is actually true.
At this
And the
moment.
unity, yeah.
So you may have different people in a room, that you may not agree on everything, which is fine. Unity does not mean everyone agrees on everything. It means common respect and common, potentially times where you're coming together for a common reason. So there is a lot. Probably unity in itself could be a whole show to talk about the misnomers about what it means,
Hmm.
and what are the striving is for humanity to go into a unity, not of separation, but an agreement to agree with common
Yeah,
basics.
I'm being told that's an interesting analogy. They say reverence for the sky is what calls this. It's more of like people giving their will away to something above and outside themselves. But I've always said that's more in line with some of the soul trap and soul the agreement or contractual information. We won't go into that, but that is also knowing that is also knowing that keeping yourself grounded and knowing who you are and not giving your will away. That's a form of protection too, and knowing yourself in the current moment and the thoughts that are coming into your head. That is a major form, and also doing shadow work, a major form of protection in of itself. So this information does apply to this particular episode. Now they're going,
Yeah,
so
again, for those that maybe are running across this for the very first time,
mhm.
we started this in 2017 in January, where we thought these conversations and understanding the world around us better was very important. I've said this a lot, but I do constantly re-say this for those people that are finding us for the first time, that, you can certainly sense things like, I just was someplace with a bunch of people or whatever. Now I feel drained instead of not drained and or re-energized. Even if you went there to get re-energized, you weren't. So understanding the fact that you are more than just a, what I call it, in a skin suit. Let's say you really are a soul, but your soul is a kind of more electromagnetic. And so just like, you can plug a toaster in the wall and the toaster works because it gets energy from the wall, you have to remember that you are more energetic, and energy fields that you don't necessarily see. And you can be drained by other entities, other things, other people, knowingly and unknowingly. So when we talk about protection, what we're talking about in general is, again, your whole self, what you see and what you don't see, that really sovereign soul of yourself, and being able to protect yourself and your energies and everything, so that you're not walking around drained or used basically
As a
as
battery,
as a
yes.
battery by something else. So I just wanted to restate that, just in case somebody was
And
on new for the first time.
and this is something that I'll say something that everyone that I've ever known has encountered. This is very basic. Say you've been around, say, sick people or dying people. People have reported this particular thing, and this applies to the greater gist of what I'm saying, because this seems to be a common everyday thing. If you've had somebody you've known in a hospital, or you have to go to a hospital for some reason, and you come out really weak. And I did this back when my grandmother had her heart surgery. We were always in and out of hospitals. And also when I got hurt, it was the same. So what took place then was we went into this one hospital, went past people that were dying, my mother and I did. And we were just like, oh my God, what is this? And then we realized the people didn't realize they were doing this. Humans can be vampiric too, when it either suits them as far as narcissistic type of people go and dark people go, but as far as dying and sick people go, they will pull energy off of you, and they won't realize it because they have an innate fear of dying, and they want to hold on to that with their survival instinct. They want to hold on to that moment, and they're pulling in every resource. This is part of the biology. So this happens. So there is a ward that I have created, and it is in the wards, revocations, and audits PDF. And it is one on, basically about the sick and the dying, and how you should not allow them to take your energies. When you go into a place like this, consciously bring out a shield from within yourself, a light shield, surround yourself in it. You can also put a cloak layer around it. I put a suit of armor on. What I do is, even if you are to forget to do this, I do like what the Tibetan monks have done. Go back to the subconscious. I know people like to point to the back of their head. That's not where it is, but I'm just saying, back in the subconscious, run a mantra of some kind, like a protective armor, like mantra, whatever wording you want to come up with for that that suits you. Also, any colors you have associated with that, whatever suits you. Like I said, I use a suit of armor. When you're in a danger zone like that, it automatically seems to come on. You have to run the mantra into the subconscious so you can go about your daily lives and not always having to remember you do it. Tibetan monks are very good at this, where they run their mantras into their subconscious, giving the brain a task. This is why you see them out raking dirt and doing stuff like that all the time. They're basically telling the brain, hey, this is the motion and the action that you are supposed to be going through in line with what the soul wants in the moment. That adding that to your normal everyday life, not a monk, chanting on a mountain somewhere, adding that into your daily life. This is where both worlds have to meet. They usually collide. Both worlds usually collide very quickly. They don't have to collide. They can be co-synchronous. They can be in unity. This is something I've not seen some of these monks accomplish, and I'm not seeing an everyday person accomplish this. But this is what I've always been told, is both sides can coexist. Where you can go about your life and do what people say is a normal life. I don't like using that term, but you got, or real world things. I don't like using these terms, but you know what I am saying. This is a major point of protection. Also, kind of married into this is not only just internal, like shadow work, doing all this, keeping that protection up because other things can latch onto you. Then you have external type of stuff. Do not carry with you objects and such that have no meaning for the current present moment. This includes computer files, I might add. If certain projects hold no meaning for you anymore, if certain things you've written ages ago hold no meaning, there's a delete button for a reason. So I ran across, and I will also post this on our subscription. There's some videos that I did that I have to edit up on, like cursed computer files and some of the haunting activity that surrounded it, like what happened to us at Granville. I did on the disk archive. I did a whole set on that. There's no reason to add it here. It was too long. So I'm going to put that in our subscription base here at some point. But what I'm trying to get at is protection when you are going out. Like you see me wearing stones, like on the wrist. This is one of the main ones are shungite, hematite, and also I have labradorite and lava rock and tiger's eye and all these on me. These, of course, labradorite is wisdom, soul connection, things of that nature. But shungite, one of the best ones. Hematite keeps you grounded. Amber keeps you grounded, protected, and silver, of course, keeps you protected, and these meridians protected on these fingers here. And this keeps this meridian blocked by any negativity. It's like, think of it as like a filter for those particular meridians. I have noticed that being near the ocean, I don't need as many of some of these external things like carrying salt pucks. I don't actually need them. Silver, yes, because there are some negative entities that actually surround in some of them come from the ocean, like crustacean and bug types, primordial earth types that is needed for. But one of the things that I want to reiterate is there's a lot of people that are sensitive out there to the thoughts of others, to the energies of others. And you may find yourself taking on some of these things when you are around, or even make eye contact with other people, like if you're in a store. They may look at you like you're weird, like you're an alien or something like that, because your energy is uh, faster moving. Or you may even have ET origins that you yourself don't realize. You may be different from other people, and that is being noticed by those that are more at lockstep. What I'm trying to get at is you will take on garbage from everything you encounter. You walk through the footsteps of other people that have been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years, but even more immediate times. Grocery stores, like Walmarts, malls, movie theaters, parking lots. any of these things. This is why we wrote the footsteps or channeled the footsteps blessing. That is a form of protection that I myself always forget. This is also within the wards revocations and audits PDF, along with the Dreamtime revocation, which is another form of protection. You see us talking about that quite often, and you see us talking about Dreamtime protection, where you don't take candy from strangers. Basically, you don't get into vehicles. You don't get into buildings where beings opening a door for you. Something's chasing you. You turn around and confront it in the Dreamtime. Major source of invasion needs protecting constantly. I came to find out putting an external thing on your bedstand. We've made not only some things, but also Amethyst does this quite well as well. We made these little guys here. And I knew there was a reason I had this sitting here today. I was using it for a session this morning. I have these are bedside pieces, but also these are healing pieces. You see these on Etsy quite a lot. And there's amber, frankincense, and myrrh. This one happens to have black tourmaline in it, and various plant materials and such. I put these next to the bed and it helps sleep. Helps you sleep. Amethyst is also known as a Dreamtime protector, and you have that on your bedstand. Now, one of the main reasons we wanted to start to reiterate some of this material is, you may have also noticed this. In fact, so I would be very shocked and surprised if you did not notice this. On the YouTube, you saw that I have deleted a number of videos. Anything before end of 2019 is not on there for the lifting episodes. And this is the reasons why. One, I wanted to get rid of old banners and old connections to an old time frame. Not the information, just getting rid of old branding, old connections, old things that would confuse people in these really confusing energies that the AI and voice to skull putting out. What I did is I put them in zip files, and they are on galacticinterstellarcouncil.com under the $5 downloads on there. What we are also doing with that same information is updating that said information. You will see these things like you saw with the Binary Network AI episode that I posted recently. That was based on older episodes. I believe it was episode 11 and episode 25 of the lifting that I put into a singular episode with some updated information. We'll do that with episodes like Dream On, where it's like the Dreamtime invasion. We'll do this. We're doing this on protection right now, because there's a lot of things we've learned, not only from external things like certain, say, herbs like wolfsbane, nightshade. This keeps away negative entities. From things we already knew, like shungite, different stone, from things that we are trying to sell, such as our orgone pieces. Internal, knowing who you are, knowing that the shadow work, doing that makes it so certain protections are easier. Getting rid of old photographs. This is something that I've discussed in other things, like on conspiracy sector and such, like with cursed objects. Photographs, old love letters, things of that nature, anchored to the time frame over here. It's a frequencies game. Say in a particular time frame, and of course the neighbor would be making loud noises at the moment. Let's say that you have a photograph that is anchored, say here, or a written word. My notebooks fell under this as well. You saw me talking about those on Galactic Interstellar Council a lot. They were anchored here, and we live here in the moment. It's always a frequencies game where you have one time frame or set that exists here and one here, or objects. They did that experiment with the spheres, where they had one sphere, metal sphere, in one frequency, one in another. And when they changed one to the one over here, it moved. The same goes the other direction with time as well. Say you're here in the present, you have something that's anchoring you to the past, or an older version of yourself that may have existed in that time frame. What happens when when the bad guys try to get you to live in the past here? It's a frequencies game, like a magnet. So why keep something that doesn't serve in the moment, either object wise, energy wise, idea of self wise? That's why that is so important. You see how it goes from one medium to another, self and external. The two are linked at the hip. In like the instance of photographs, negative entities can come through. Say if it's a person you don't associate with anymore and you're looking at it just puts you in a bad place, why keep it? Letters, if somebody's name, no, signed name, sometimes their energies can come through that as well from their frequency. But if, say, if it's from an old boyfriend, old girlfriend, whomever, family member, whomever, friend, and it doesn't serve in the now, toss it, burn it, renounce and revoke all ownership of it at that moment of time. The garbage can, for instance, is a universal symbol of just letting go of something. This is why all you have to do, you don't have to be elaborate, folks. You can burn it. Fire will burn something that is heavily infected. I recommend that all the time. But you just toss something, say you renounce and revoke ownership of it at that moment in time. It's done at that point. But with the notebooks, they require just a little more push to get rid of them. Or in some written word that is so heavily ingrained, spelling. Sometimes you really have to lay it down for that with the fire, with the cleansing fire. Things like photographs, I was pitching them by the dozens. Uh, we couldn't burn them there in Arizona too much, so I just said screw it and got rid of them and did what I just said I did. These are forms of protection that you didn't know that you needed. And these were updates to this information over the years that you didn't know you needed. Objects that may even be cursed, or some people call it curses. It could be anchored into a different time frame. Sometimes a little psychic surgery is needed, like what I had to do with certain pieces that we ran across, where I had to. Crumb stated this in an episode of GIC at one point, where you can take an anchor out of one time frame and put it into the present if it is definitely something that serves in the now, and you can then keep that object and it is no longer that anchor point. That is advanced magic, but is also formed in visualizations. It is something that you know serves and serves emotionally, physically, spiritually. You can reappropriate that frequency to grab a hold of it and bring it here. But 9 times out of 10, if it does not serve, well, 10 out of 10, if it does not serve, it goes. But you see what I'm saying with, like, we had a couple of objects in the house. I won't mention the objects, but we had a couple things that Joanna did not want to part with, that I had to do that exact thing with, had to put shungite on them in some way, look at the wording that was associated with it, what time frame, and also mindset that the creator was in at the time, and basically repurpose it. I've had to do this with stuff in the garage recently for old plant material, old things that were meant for other projects that did not come to fruition. My grandfather mentioned this in the warnings and yields episode that we did. You will have seen it by the time you've seen this, where things have to be given new purpose and new life. Even stuff that belonged to him, I found out. Behind me in one of those bowls that's sitting up here on the shelf here, there is a buckeye seed that belonged to him. He even said, take it, break it up, repurpose it, use it in the orgone pieces. The Dryadic consciousness is also wanting this. If you have old plant material, say if you're holding like here's something that might hit closer to home as an example. My mother had an old rose that was given to her by my father when they got married. In the photo album, they still had this. This had this particular Dryadic energy needed and wanted to be released. What I did was I incorporated that flower, or at least the petals, into some sprays that I made. I put it into also the land protection. The dryads were very pleased that that plant material that didn't get given new life. It was either that or just release it back into nature. I also found some old seeds from 2016 that I've now incorporated into some of these very pieces. that are sitting in the garage. It gave those seeds new life, and what I couldn't put in there got released back into nature again. And so that, like, say, Benortfoils people, meaning like elementals, they could break it down and have it reincorporated into nature. This is a more direct example of transformation of something maybe in one form it didn't serve, and a new form it does. I also found the old HHG coil from years ago. My grandfather was suggesting that on the Warnings and Yields episode, that I cut it up and make and repurpose it. I did so. Galaxy coils, I've been doing the same. These were the objects he was suggesting, and various other things I'm not going to mention here, but some things he was making personal reference and general reference to in the Warnings and Yields episode, which I found interesting. Repurposing things, giving it a new life, like you see with pickers, for instance, where they take something old and re-give it new life and rejuvenation, like if it's been rotting outside on somebody's property, like an old bike or an old car or what have you, old sign, what have you, giving it new life, or even melting it down and giving it new form as a new metal to make something else. It's transmutation, transconfiguring that piece, or transmuting a piece from one form to another. It's basic philosopher's stone, where even though that was a turning lead to gold, and that's basic technology like you see on Star Trek, taking waste and turning it into something else and repurposing it, like you've heard in Discovery and Enterprise being talked about a lot for replication. Think of this in a magical version of this, where you take it in one form and give it a new form. It still applies to the Philosopher's Stone philosophy. And this is a form of protection too, that I didn't fully understand at the time we did our #1 episode of the lifting, was protection. So this was a philosophy I didn't completely get the meanings of at the time that we recorded our very first pilot episode. This is why we are retouching on these topics. And in those other little various videos, I'll show different forms of that, like the usage of the Tower Busters, the usages of the powder, the words spoken, why they need to be spoken, what needs to be spoken, what mindset you have to be in when you're creating these things. You can't be all like and despondent. Some people are just having a bad day, and the artwork and the creation of it are getting them out of it. That's a little different because it's actually leading to a better place, but it's remaining in that spot. Bad guys, the AI, the voice to skull, all these things are trying to get people to stay in the spot of giving up.
The difference being, just to let you know, when he mentioned creator a while back, that word, he was talking about the creator of the art, not the some people interpret as the ultimate.
Yes,
creator.
I meant the creator of the art.
Now, the creator of the artwork. And again, when you talk about a person's mindset, there is a difference between the process of going into that creative mode puts them in a place of joy, and they're trying to spread joy, versus just escapism, where they really haven't gotten out of something. And those energies of someone could be making something and they're so upset or mad, and in their mind they're running through, oh, I hate this, oh, I hate that. And believe it or not, some of that energy is getting imbued into the object.
Yes, it's basic energetic imbuing. Yeah.
It's not intentional for a lot of people. But it's just one of those awareness things that if you are creating and doing things, that we wanted just to say energetically how important it is for there to be some sense of, especially if you're giving it away, what energies you want to be imbued in that and what you don't want to go with it, because those energies do happen. You have to think of it again as we've talked about it as chords, as lines, imbuing and in general energy. Those types of things can happen. So when we talk about, when Chris was talking about, again, the visualizations of protecting yourself and how to protect your energies, another thing to remember is that, at this current present moment, there is a lot of information out there that says, let your energy shine, let your energy be so far out beyond your body. In truth, that isn't necessarily good protection.
No, you have to keep your aura tight to yourself, there's so many people over the years that said, "Oh my God, I spread my energy out 20 miles." Really? You really want to do that? That's like, think of a fishing net that somebody's cast off of a trawler. You know what, how much seaweed and garbage along with the fish you're getting. You don't need all that crap within your energy.
And
Yeah.
we say that more that, shoot, maybe down the line someone can. But what we're saying is that we're not in a perfected mode of knowing how to protect our energies. We're in a learning mode of just learning about all of these things and learning how to protect your energies and learning what works. Learning again, how do you put yourself, as you were saying, on that automatic pilot? So since people aren't there right now, there, we encourage people, you have to be, when you're taking a shower in the morning, if you do a morning shower, when you're putting your clothes on, that there have some conscious thought of, I'm also applying my energy shielding. Don't forget to shield under your feet, don't forget to shield over your head either, that I'm putting that on. And again, I don't want my energies out there, that if my shielding begins to waver, because we're not perfected yet, that a lot of stuff will stick to it. You don't necessarily want to be, doing that. And also the fact for parents that there is a lot that you can do for your children until they hit a certain age. So if you have children, most likely definitely 13 and below, but when you get to the ages of 14 and 15, and 16, continue to do it, but there will be a transition point where, let's just say spiritually, there is recognition that the soul has reached a point that they need to agree to certain things themselves. It's fuzzy when that is. It's completely
It's
individualized.
basically between, from what I understand, 16 and 18,
Right.
somewhere in there.
So
Yeah.
continue to do it. And then again, there is this thing, but hopefully by the time they're 16 or 18, if you feel strongly that this is a part of life, that you will have some conversations to spread this information so that your children will pick up doing certain things. But as far as if you are putting on your own protection, you need to be putting it on your children as well. When we talk about dream time, one of the things we'll say is revoke all dreams, revoke anything that you gave permission to at night, because it's only there to scam you right now. And so you can do that for your children. You can certainly, the footsteps, blessings, nothing shall follow you home or follow them home. All of these things can be applied again
Mhm.
to your children. So don't forget to, because they're in your care as a soul right now, that you actually have the ability to do things like that for them as
And you
well.
don't want any hitchhikers in your car. You go past graveyards, this happens all the time. We have bags of shungite and some of our tower busters in the car for this reason. I mean, there are some things that try very heavily. Like even yesterday, we went past Face Eater territory and something telepathically tried to link to me going through the Great Dismal Swamp yesterday. But that's a unique set of circumstances. I'm also being told, link in, don't call out to the wrong beings. And some people may say, well, what do you classify as a wrong being? And sometimes some spiritual people will say, well, is there really a definition of wrong and right? Yes, there is. That may seem polarized. That may seem very polarized. And I realize running into dark things allows people to evolve. Running into uncomfortableness, yes, allows people to evolve, but you can also evolve in a state of being yourself and in a comfortable space too. But what I define as a wrong being is something that does not have your highest good, highest vibrations at heart. It has a extremely conflicting agenda that it tries to corral you, and using its frequency influence tries to get you in lockstep with itself. The AI V2K falls into this. Demonic entities fall under this. Other beings fall. Some beings fall into this. Even benevolent ones that have conflicting agendas might do something that doesn't seem wrong to them, but might be steering you in a different way. This is, yeah, and I'm being told, yes, this is the one thing also. And some people might be mad about what I'm about to say, but basically being reliant on guardian angels, this falls under the not protection category. This falls into the inversion of protection because, for one, you don't want to always become reliant, and positive, benevolent beings with no conflicting agendas won't allow you to become reliant on them. With ones that require that from you, ones that require, they'll bully you whether you have give or consent or not, and they could be steering you and you would never know it because you're so in tune with like the bad smell in the room, you don't notice it anymore. That's being sense blind, or you don't notice the heavy feeling. But something's trying to mind wipe me on that. But meaning a being that you think was declared protection for you, like say at birth, or this is why we created the baptism revocation. Do you revoke your baptism and the demon assigned to you? This is where we came up with this is a biggie, folks. And then your answer from this point, if you are hearing this, say yes, because when that happens, especially things associated with the church, you have angels, you have guardian angels. I want to say right now, there is no such thing. And people go, wait a minute, we have guardians and guides. You have soul family, you have benevolent beings that do look out for you, a benevolent spirit and soul family that does look out for you. Of course, there's benevolent source creator, but there was nothing assigned to you. Yes, there are people come in with their own soul missions, but you have a specific one being that is assigned to a singular person from birth to death. No.
Unless it's negative.
Unless it's negative.
Because there are those that get attached to negative
Yes, yes, and they can haunt a family lineage for centuries. This is what the Greys, this is what Jinn do. This is what some of the negative Ebens were doing, as they were manicuring family lines with certain genetics to come into the here and now. You heard us mention this in the past life genetic memory episode of GIC when Bjorn and I mentioned this with the associated with the 144,000 manipulative genetics that were going on. Go watch that. But this, there could be a Jinn assigned to a family lineage. There could be curses with negative nymphs and stuff like that. And there could be Greys and Orions that were manicuring a family lineage for centuries. They could also get into a baptism at birth that then assigns a particular demonic entity to a particular child.
So to add to this conversation, just to understand that, again, I always like to use girls, but it's really no different for anyone. But girl, everyone female knows exactly what I'm saying when I use this example of that. You do have a guidance system that you're born in with. The kind of, if you pay attention to it, will help you know something, whether it's good for you now or whether really it's not. But little girls from the very beginning were told pretty much you had to. The goal was to get along with everybody. And so you may have sensed that I didn't want to play with Jack or Jill in that play box over there. I didn't want to, but then you're beaten down basically to say that you're the one being inappropriate. And then not only that, you may be forced to apologize for your behavior, which nothing was wrong with, when you were sensing you didn't belong. So from a very young age, people's sense of maybe I shouldn't be doing something was beaten down to the point where you don't listen. The reason I say that, and what Chris alluded to earlier, is not paying attention to that. So many people are bringing in people that in their mind, we're going to call it from here. Okay. There is this, oh, they're here today. This is great. But at the same time, there's a little in the stomach, just a little bit.
And your stomach starts to get upset. Yeah.
The reason I say that is because when you really are pulled in a benevolent way in this space, there's a pulling out, like I want to, versus a pushing in or a pushing into the stomach, or worse, there's nothing. That is one of the biggest problems, when there's nothing, because your energies are reading. And when a being can actually put off nothing, that's a scary place to be, because benevolence won't. Benevolence will try to, put off. Malevolence can't help what they are. And they maybe can do a little bit of benevolence for a little bit, and then it wears off and you're sensing something else. Beings that are really, really good and usually not players for benevolence, let's say, they can get to a state of neutrality where you read nothing off of them. They're actually probably more dangerous than anything else, just FYI. So what we're talking about is that if you dust off some of those discernment skills in order to protect yourself, then what you may come across with is having to deal with situations of either talking to things or allowing things, that there is a conflict within yourself about it, that, you know, you're feeling you should, you've always been told this, that, but there is a conflict with that internal GPS system that you should be dusting off and starting to really pay attention to. So that's what we're talking as far as I always say deny the known, right? And manifest differently. Deny the known. So we all came in being, let's just say, programmed and indoctrinated to the way that our family members were themselves programmed and indoctrinated. One of the things that I think has even surprised us over the last 5 years is having belief systems that we didn't even realize we had in place, that things were bumping up against, that we had to decide to, no, we need to let that go, to let this other energy. Yeah, so you will, and so that's what we're trying to say, because everyone oftentimes is like, well, I don't know. Well, what we're trying to tell you is that yes, if you allow some of this to develop, yes, you more will know. Then, as I say, the question always becomes, what are you going to do about it? Because, you know, are you going to start making choices that really, again, are for your highest good, that you feel, which most of us, when as we're hitting this moment of seeing some of the conflict, some people would be too afraid to say, I'm going to do now what's for my highest good. Some will back off, right? And or backtrack even into other places where they felt comfortable,
Like you
like this, like this,
because you
because
see
they can't
this,
cope with it.
you see this like with some newer spirituality, whereas if somebody has run into something too many times, they revert back to an older form of manipulation, which was religion, like Christianity. And so I noticed this time and again, where I've noticed some people we used to know that went from here and they backtrack thinking, oh my God, I must have pissed someone off. Oh my God, oh my God.
Right.
And then they go like, they're like, oh my God, forgive me. I must have done something wrong. Wrong, because you have to listen to your intuition, not your indoctrinated beliefs and fears. Intuition is crown king right here, always has been, always will be. Yes, you do think through problems with critical thinking. Absolutely. That's stepping outside of a situation, not polarizing in politics, not polarizing in beliefs. You have intuition, heart space that forms critical thinking. And when you have reached this, no amount of indoctrinated belief will touch you again. This is a crucial stage to be at. I always retell this one story about the woman that invited her ex over. Then she basically said, "My intuition told me no. My being a Christian woman told me I must." The guy ended up going to jail that evening and was very abusive towards her. And then she got on and basically said, "Hey, I didn't listen to the intuition. I listened to a belief." And this is people think the belief had to be crown king because this is an obligation as a Christian or as a spiritually oriented person. No. And that is a big over resounding no. You open yourself up to inviting in a whole array of garbage when you do that. You go with intuition being the crown king, and then you integrate the heart space, the mind together, get the mind off its repetitive tracks and any narratives it's susceptible to. And you basically, I hate to say ascend because it's the wrong choice of words. You transform your perspectives and your perceptions into critical thinking and into it's all intuition and heart space and mind and heart integrated together and grounded in your own I am presence. Once you hit that, so these certain belief systems will go and just go right off of you when you've stepped outside of the narrative. And also, this is a biggie for protection right now. Narratives being pumped into your head like a river. You've heard us talk about this on numerous occasions about narratives that are put in your head. This is voice to skull. This is artificial intelligence. This is negative telepathy. You might have playful beings and kind, benevolent beings that play jokes on you. Forest people have done it. Other beings done it. Isaac's done it on numerous occasions. But what I'm getting at is, like I said before, I was standing in the garage one day back in Granville, And this narrative was just playing from one end to the other, trying to get me to engage with it, desperately trying to get me to engage with it. They put a fictional scenario like I was imagining it, since these beings are not creator beings, we are trying to get us to co-create this narrative and ground it to where it takes place, trying to get us to basically manifest, not manifest differently, but manifest for them.
Or
And what
manifest
and
poorly.
more manifest what?
More poorly.
More poorly and not differently. So this is where you have to deny the known and know when your creativity is being hijacked. And I saw this scenario where they tried to show me in this fictional, it was like a Star Trekky type thing where she died. So what I did is I stopped it, reformed the narrative, brought her back to life in the narrative, faded it to black like it was on TV, put myself on there as executive producer, director, stamped it, and then faded it out and closed the circle. The reptilians that were doing it at the time became immensely pissed, knowing that I cut off their narrative and I ratted them out at that point.
And this is the same for everyone, just what he, the example is if you rewrite the ending, we're not talking something just went through your head once. We're talking, it becomes
Multiple
a
times.
repeating pattern,
repetition.
repeating pattern. Again, when you find yourself within that, that's another way of protection. You've got to know who you are to know what you're not. And so when you find yourself and realize, this doesn't even make sense to the type of person I say I am. Okay. When you really realize that, then what you'll do is you can let that scenario play one more time. And as Chris was saying, change the ending. I'll give you another example because a lot of it is probably more similar to, some is similar to what Chris says. Some is similar to, I'll give another example. For example, let's say that, you were in the office minding your own business, doing your work, and someone really came up to you and was a jerk, really was a jerk to you, maybe yelled at you for something, this, that, and the other. And again, your intentions and whatever it is, the scenario they're bringing up, there weren't bad intentions on your side or whatever, but you're being accused of all this crap. So if you're normal, and I'm going to say this, if you're normal, you may have some thoughts running through your head, and one of them could be, you really hope they get hit by a bus today, right? So because that's,
we've all done that.
No, that's being normal. Someone really just kind of was egregious. Another one may be you're imagining yourself, right, getting up and punching them in the face. So all these things, and again, all perfectly normal feelings, but the question is, what, who are you, and how then do you present yourself? So oftentimes what you don't want to do in a situation like that is get into a knockdown drag out with somebody, although there are moments where you do need to defend yourself. Okay, so in general what could happen is, let's say you tried to have a civil conversation, it's still didn't go well, people just walked away or whatever. So you have very normal human emotions that run through your head. One of them, of course, is that but then what happens is that you can't let it go. And then it starts repeating in your mind over and over and over and over again. And, until maybe you're getting quite elaborate in how you're going to punish this person.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe as well, it's really starting to preoccupy your thoughts. If it's moving to an area where now your demeanor is really beginning to change, and it's showing, meaning you're depressed, you're getting angry and frustrated with people, you're doing whatever, then this is malevolence that is doing all this and exaggerating this in your head 20-fold, because this is how they want you to now be, and push out that kind of energy and to push out all of that. Now, sometimes, again, you have to recognize it. You have to understand, well, who am I? I really have no bad intent. I just really want people to do whatever. But they have taken a real life scenario and or controlled the other person to make something 20 times worse from their perspective, to cause this, that then starts a tumbleweed effect in your own mind that then starts to change your demeanor and your feelings towards people and this, that, and the other. So again, to end it, you must change the ending in your head. So again, remembering who you are and really how you feel maybe about things or about people or about the life. about the community you want to have, then you would maybe, again, change the ending to whatever you want. It just, as long as it is something in a benevolence that is for a more appropriate unity, let's say. Let's say that, you sit down, and instead of saying, whatever you want to say, you would say, acknowledge how the person, wow, you've really come up, and I can see that you're very angry and very frustrated. Um, Again, if they don't normally do it, I'd say, you do not normally do this at all, even with misunderstandings. So I can see you're in pain. How can I help? Now, if you do that, number one, you just took away every ounce of power that other person had, right? Because the balloon just deflated. But in your mind, if you do that, then it can allow for a proper conversation of maybe learning things. But it takes all the air out of it. It takes all of that energy out of it, and it will not replay anymore. That's what we're trying to say when somebody's trying to use it. And again, it should be in alignment. Whatever you're doing in your head, let it be in alignment with the person you say you are, because everyone will have a bad day. Everyone has or will be manipulated to exaggerate something. Now, again, you have to decide whether or not this other person stops their behavior, continues on behavior, and whether you want anything to do with them or not. That's totally different. It's not like you're going to change them. What you're changing is what is going through your own head that is now affecting you, that you need it to stop, because then now it is changing you into being somebody who you really aren't. And that's what we're talking about. That is protection of yourself, to not let the invading things in and allow them to take over, to change you from who you really are. It's a very important skill. It takes the wind out of everything, and it stops the recordings in your mind. A huge skill that people need to practice right now, because there's so much. It's like the volume's been turned up on some of this stuff. And so again, a huge skill that people need to learn about and learn how to be able to control, to not allow these things to stagnate you and or backtrack you from being your genuine, authentic self. Very important to remember.
Yes, and you heard us say in the warnings and yields episode, we heard us talking about that hat that I was putting on the anti-EMF thing. That's an external protection, but like with anything, there's the yield that has been put in there to where there's some toxicity to it, and the length of time it's used. Go watch that if you have not touched on that yet by the time you see this one.
And then the goal, again, what we say, even with, we are big that people should try to make their home more of a sanctuary. We are big with people trying to do what they can, either having things that absorb some of the energies around them, or deflect the energies around them, or pump out good energies to be around where maybe things don't want to be within that energy. All of these things, and the protection, and what's Chris doing, especially important now, because again, we're not perfected. We're learning to do these things. And these are things, even if you were wearing, a bracelet, if you look down to it, hopefully at some point it will remind you, reapply your shield if you feel something else is going on. The goal, again, is that I've always said 150, 200 years from now, we see these things in a spiritual museum where they're talking about what was used and how it was used, right? In a spiritual way for a time where it was needed, but we've grown and learned better. And so in the future, some of these things would hopefully not be needed, because we innately now do everything by ourselves. But right now, in this lifetime, we are not going to become perfected in all this. I think everybody, again, a lot of times wants that instant pudding, poof, I just know how. No, this is learning, and this learning and growing takes some time and effort. But with a little bit of effort, with a little bit about what we're saying, you will see enough of effect to realize, maybe there's something to what they're saying, and I should continue with this. And not only are you seeing it, I need to probably bring this up to my children as they get older, to help them understand more about the world around them, so that they can maneuver through it better and be more of their genuine, authentic self. So these are the conversations, again, about protection, that there's so many different layers to it. But the reason is so you can have the better quality of life without a lot of interference that is all around us right
What,
now.
when you said having our stuff in a museum, later protection pieces, about what people use, I heard Isaac say being picked up with gloves and tongs. So it's like,
Right.
basically, see, that's another thing where we joke and say he's like the court jester, but in all importance, his name stands for "He Who Laughs." So,
Right.
so doing something like that is also one of the more ultimate forms of protecting as well. Just like, again, there was I'll use Trek as a reference because there's been a lot of synchronicities and reference points here, where there was an invader that got on the ship that wanted a Klingon group and the human group to fight on the Enterprise. It was an orb that had a being sitting in the center of it, just like how the Orions do. It's the same. This is what Roddenberry was trying to say, that it could pass through walls, turn a different color, like how they had it turn red, like how demons, I've heard reports of like clouds, red clouds and black clouds making people angry. That's demonic sources. He was saying he was trying to get them to go to the individuals and see them each other as enemies. And when they started shaking hands, convincing each other using critical thinking, shaking hands and laughing, and even laughing at the being, going, "Oh, you suck," and stuff like that. It actually, the being couldn't cope, and it left. So they're like, "Haha, you ran, you caught the Klingons were all heckling it and everything like that," and the two were shaking hands. So that's what it didn't want, was unity, like what we said in our Tartarian episodes. They didn't want the unity. The Orions destroyed. Tried to destroy that
I
unity.
think you just put out the episode of forgiveness and stuff on the internet.
Yeah, forgiveness.
So again, the laughter related to being a non-binary forgiver, non-binary forgiveness, non-binary gratitude. Again, to put some levity with some of the issues that are going on and to diminish its energies.
When you said non-binary, I just heard Vanessa laughing because she did that channel in that.
No, I mean, technology, because it's funny. If you really think about it, it's funny.
Yeah.
So
the way they did it, but
yeah, the way that it was did. If you didn't see that one on forgiveness, please go back and see it. But because it's up right now before this video.
Yes. So it would be 2 before this because or 3 before this, because you'll see an Elder Scrolls one, then you'll see the Warnings and Yields one after that. So
Okay.
so yeah, and many people think I'm going to say that the Elder Scrolls ones aren't important. They're very important because they're also showing some of these protective methods in there, and somebody is putting into the storylines not only galactic history, but they're also putting in protection methods against the Witcher series too. They're showing how to get out of demonic contracts and everything. Very important, especially with the whole Hearts of Stone Master Mirror narrative. Go look at that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you will understand with the protection methods that they actually integrated into those series.
And just as a disclaimer, we're not promoting OCD behavior.
No.
What again, there is need for certain things now. There's many ways to cut a pie, as I always say. So a red flag warning, if you're dealing with anyone or anyone that says it can only be done one way, that should be a red flag to you.
Yes, or if you have to go through them, kind of like with Christianity and Jesus. Oh, it's only one way to do it. Wrong. Also, don't fall for distractions as well, trying to distract you away from your path. That's also another thing in the Witcher series, where you go into the Master Mirror thing, where he's tricking Geralt into distractions. Very, very important message that was being said there for protection. Go look at it. It would take me way too damn long to describe the whole thing. I've done it in other videos, so just those will be up eventually as well. Yeah,
I know we want to keep this to a reasonable.
And we have been going about an hour, so I am going to. And I know 2 of you wanted to speak today, so okay. People will be happy to know this. I did a session this morning. I won't mention the person's name, obviously, unless he wants me to at some point. But works a lot with forest people, and came to find out that a forest person that I thought was gone was not. Had actually been associated under a different name around us to try to eventually re-reveal himself. This is a form of protection. I'm glad this came up because switching a name can also shield you. You see galactics do this all the time. They will give a pseudonym of some kind because that is a shield. This particular being, he doesn't mind if I use his actual name. It's also like the Doctor in Doctor Who, where he calls himself the Doctor, but he's somewhere else. Or Valiant Thor, I found out that's his rank. So he shields himself with that, like saying lieutenant or captain. With this being, his name, you know him as Tel Norskis, the very first forest person I ever spoke to. One from the Lemurian age was of the ancestral line of certain clans of forest people. Like you've heard us talk about, the Dogmen do this. The Tartarian groups did this. If you go view our material on the Tartarian World Unity on galacticinterstellarcouncil.com, about the progenitor groups of the different clans. He changed his name to Chuck, and you'll hear him talk about again in GIC. He did that, giving himself the pseudonym, so there was a protective buffer. Some people associate with a certain frequency, like if they want to change their name to something, they don't have an affinity from their old name anymore. Don't give yourself a deadened name. That's another way of being taking power away from yourself. He did this as a protective buffer because there's power in a name, like the Doctor from Doctor Who. Even one of his companions said, "You have a name, why don't you use it?" And what he was implying was he was protecting himself. So, so this is Tel Norskis. It's been a very long time since this has taken place. So you heard this on some of the old Sasquatch shows that I used to do. When I used to do Understanding Sasquatch, he was even on World of Sasquatch. We will resurrect that show at some point as well, because that ties into galactic history as well. So, Tel Norskis, I know Elaine and Vesa, one of you wanted to talk after him, but we will. I gotta get situated here. All right. Oh, shush. He's, I was adjusting my seat and everything. He goes, "We don't have to worry about adjusting ourselves. We don't wear pants." Oh, right. All right. Yeah, fine. Whatever. Okay. Just, okay. That's the level of humor right here, but okay. And, Isaac, yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're not, no. Okay. Um, Everybody's laughing at that. Okay. There's a lot of force people. I'm seeing his clan out here. Oh, okay. Get my bit of cotton out here. So it's very peaceful at the moment. Little, little resistance, but through the crystal, please, if you would. No, he doesn't call himself Chucky anymore. Okay. All right, Isaac. Hmm. 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 Greetings. It has been too long for this type of interchange. I've not been able to use my original name for some time, or even my original visage. I had a grandson that also used the name Chuck, that you have also spoken to. I have, as one would say, prolificated children all over the continent. Let's just say, very much like your Genghis Khan that was being made fun of in your GIC for the very same thing by his grandson, uh, Kublai Khan. But with this, it is true because I've been around quite some time, not as long as I had said before, as a form of protection against your artificial intelligence. There were some unfortunate narratives that I may have said in the past that no longer apply. I'm not as old as I let on at being in Paleolithic times. My soul is. This physical body was around in your pre-Lemurian takedown period. In that period of history, I was a member of the Lemurian Council, as were two of my brothers. We, on the council, formed triads as different members. 3 Lyrans, 3 forest people, 3 Syrians, 3 elves. 3 of your Hawaiian, eventually would be known as Hawaiian people, Lemurian people, etc. And this is when the Syrians decided they were becoming the royalty, and the know-all and be-all, or come to us for all things. This is when we knew the takedown of the continent. But in those final years, I always make fun of the one that was the final king of Lemuria not being all there. I've said that in the past before, long ago. You more than likely remember. It is a running joke because one of my brothers was so heavily influenced, wanted the throne of Mu for himself so badly that in those final moments stumbled to the throne and died on the chair. This was why I was said he was the last king of Lemuria was not all there. And I lovingly joke he is in spirit and he's okay now. But he was one of the 3 that, along with myself, that underwent heavy amounts of influence. So much so that I had to shield myself within the inner earth. He passed, as did my other brother. They're both in spirit and they are all right now, shielded from all influences. The reason I bring this up is because after a while they were unhinged as to who they were. They did not know. They had forgotten who they were inside. They could not critically think because this had been blocked. They could not open this because this had been influenced. The antenna had been severed. The dark Syrian influence that took place at the time, the royalty at the time, wanted to be the overlords of the continent, as did on Atlantis, with a lot of the energetic influences and AI influences therein. I will not go completely into that. History, Chrome and them can assist with that. But as his sole aspect, Toran Kal, I will say, though, that not knowing who you are brings in influence. Also, if you have an affinity for a particular frequency and name now that you no longer of one you no longer did, yes, there is a good aspect to stating dead name dropping, because you may have one name that you no longer associate with and you now are another, or you flip it and you use one as a shield, as more of an alias. These both have importance, and I will tell you why. Dead name dropping is a frequency. You hear that associated with trans, but I will not go into that. I'm saying an overall concept of who somebody was, not with any manipulation involved. I'm not saying manipulation. I'm stating you have an affinity for a new perspective, new perception. Then being told by your old self in what he likes to refer to as more of a Batman Bruce Wayne reference, where he had an affinity to be Batman, but his cover was Wayne. This is kind of what I'm saying. I had to do the same with the name. I did not have the affinity for the name Chuck or Chucky, but had to use it to cover something that was not me. The other reverse was something that is not you, that you become something that you are. This is how the whole Batman dichotomy comes in. His soul was an affinity for Batman, and that was his name. He always says, "I'm Batman." Bruce Wayne was his mask. This is what people live day to day when they work so hard in their jobs, but then they dualize their names. Sometimes that is a form of protection to be ignored. Sometimes this is a detriment. Sometimes it's an element of the two. With me, it was an element of the two. Now that a particular danger has passed, I can come in with my true name, which is Telnorskis, or meaning in your language, a form of, you would say, grounded teaching or grounded verbiage. It loses something in the English translation. Now, on to other forms of protection. What you guys currently are doing is above board. especially getting rid of the things that did not serve. That was a major milestone, you would say, in not only being able to communicate with beings such as myself, but also to bring about who you are in this current moment. Were there lies of the past? Yes, but not all. Were there calamities of the past? Do things all currently apply to the current present moment? No. Were things that you have said sometimes slightly skewed by this? Yes, but the overall premise as information evolving is just as important as realizing when you were tricked. When you realize you were tricked, you then can evolve. The truth is a truth till a better truth comes along, as you would say. This is brilliant. I will be now a voice again in this choir as myself. So at this moment, I can go into questions before someone else comes in to talk.
So, we've talked about a lot, and if there's anything that we've spoken about that you want to reiterate, but the one area we didn't talk about is the usage of shame, blame, and guilt. And that usage to keep people from even applying protection or, what I mean, their own personal hedge betting or things like that. But how shame, blame, and guilt is used in a person's life. Because I will say, and again, we're trying not to be apolitical. We're trying to be apolitical and this, that, and the other. But I find it interesting because somebody's shame, blame, and guilt is actually playing out on TV right now. It's an interesting thing. Kind of feels genuine to me. I don't know if it's a play, but with the gentleman who has now, I don't know if I should talk about this or not, left a particular news agency, and regret and guilt. And so again, shame, blame, and guilt is used so much that I want to bring that aspect up into all of this to help people learn how to let that go so they can protect
Yes,
themselves
yes,
and move
yes.
forward.
Say if you come to this epiphany, say the individual you just mentioned, an epiphany that what you were once in was not what you thought it was. You have come to this epiphany, or you call an aha moment. That aha moment must be honored no matter what. This is your soul expanding into the space. This is you crying out for more. This is you grounding in the moment. This is you making a realization about yourself. He mentions a character from his Trek series where she altered because she had a possession issue where a warlord tried to take her over and she had more aggressive feelings that she did not realize, and then ceased to be that innocent person. This is a similar type of dynamic with that individual, with anyone. If you've changed, you must honor that change. If you do not honor that change, you are opening yourself for a world of hurt. Once you say let the genie out of the bottle or open Pandora's box, that is completely inaccurate, but you know the phrases I'm coming up with. When you have evolved, you cannot regress without harming yourself. If you are trying to remain in an earlier version of yourself because you thought that was more you, that may not be the case. Once you've had this epiphany or aha moment, you are evolving. People associate that with ascension. No, you are becoming more grounded is the key. Shoving your consciousness up, that is a no-no. Thinking you're going up to the sky, that is the soul trap nonsense, is like what he was saying. That's a very old trick or sleight of hand by the Orions. The key here is always honoring that change. Religion always tried to stifle that, saying you must obey a strict set of rules about yourself at all time. All other things are darkness. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Are there strict rules as far as certain protections go, like with the devices or like with certain energies and certain spells and stuff? Yes. Again, someone can choose how they implement it, but are words important in certain alignments? Yes. So there's strictness in some areas, but it doesn't mean you all go to a particular source to get those answers. The answers are here as you have brought this information out and channeled it from the overall unity grid or benevolent Keshic information, however you wish to put it, outside of the artificial intelligence. You have gained the understanding about some of these truths that are useful in the configuration they're in. When they cease to be useful in the configuration they're in, they must change and evolve. This goes for spells, magic, the understanding of it. This goes for technology, science, and the understanding of it. This goes about self and the understanding of self.
So, in current present moment, okay, there's so much to protect, but there seems to be, again, the volume has turned up so much.
Mhm.
So,
Trying to keep people in an earlier rendition of themselves, let's say.
right. So again, what I always want for people that listen to the show is something simple that they can try, that they can see a result, that they can then have some belief in themselves, or maybe there's something to this moment that they can continue on to show. What do you feel? I'm going to just call it the biggest bang for the buck in protection, where they should actually be able to see a result for themselves.
That is actually what you say is a biggie, because there are multiple things here that the biggest bang for the buck is noticing and honoring that change within the self. Noticing, knowing that a former version of you is not conducive to the now moment. That is internal. External, like what you do with your devices, like what you do realizing the alchemies of different stones, the alchemies of different uh, plants, animals, visuals, salts, solids, liquids. Knowing alchemy, knowing the alchemies of all these things together, also honoring the unity with yourselves and other beings, and the love between those other beings, and not in the type of love where you always say, well, a bad person can love to do this. I'm talking about the unity form of this, the definition form of this. These are the differences between those two, and this is also what you get as the biggest bang for your buck.
And then again, I would also like for you to maybe expand more on what parents and folks can do for their children.
Yes, you were talking about the revocations. Yes, those are also another big bang for your buck if you do not go into OCD behavior with them, like what you have discussed in the past. When you overdo it, then you fall into another type of lockstep. For children, you are correct in your age reference, but it actually can be done after 16 in certain cases where a repetitious cycle cannot be broken by the individual themselves. An external source then is needed to shatter that illusion that that person is under. I'm not saying that person always must call on a being outside themselves for this. But there are times where that unity, the loving intentions, outweighs that of the control. You know of what I speak currently. And so we will not go into personal situations, but universal. If any of you have a situation that is extreme, either that situation will get you sucked into it in a repetitious cycle of your own if you go in lockstep with that frequency, or your frequency overpowers it. This is usually what you have seen. The largest torsion field wins. In universal speaking, as far as revocations go, it's usually loosely 15 to 18. It's in this, depending on the way the energies match up. Somebody else was being way too strict at 16. It can go to 18, even to 20 and 21 at times, because sometimes 21 is a more of an age of decision than 16 or 18. It actually can fluctuate. However, I'm not promoting black magic. I'm just saying you can influence the person whenever you want with energetics, with frequency magics. This has been highly misused over the centuries, but you can do it again. The largest torsion field wins. But I'm saying it in more of a grounded perspective and more of a unity perspective.
Okay. Well,
or intervention.
okay. Thank you. So I'm just gonna leave it to you because I think someone else also wants to speak. So for right now, anything that you really wish to get across the audience, please.
Yes, but just know in your own personal situations, this will clear up. In also in a universal sense, there are energies that people encounter from day to day that are not quite, let's say, workable, or they feel that it is insurmountable. The AI and voice to skull, even the human handlers that are behind it, want you to fall into those doldrums. Yes, it is good to acknowledge that part of self, but at the same time, when you feel you can't get out of it, bring out that more powerful energy from within. Yes, it is good to call on help, true benevolence with no conflicting agendas, as you've said. But something does not like me having this conversation with you, but this is where you give that energy the finger and you move forward, find that strength within and move forward. I know it seems cliche, even militaristic, but at the same time, you must also honor where people are and honor if it is the true person where they are. If it is not, then a unity is needed. But yes, can you get pulled in quicker than you can pull them out? Yes, that is a concept that happens quite often. You will know when you've hit that threshold, generally speaking and personally speaking. But there is a way to help in all situations, great or small, in some fashion, as you would say, millimeters and centimeters. And I am being harangued by the other party. So a little bit. So, because there is a time sensitive issue here. So I thank you for having me on. I will be in touch, especially since the marvelous invention of the communications art, which was not available in the time frame that I originally communicate. Let's see, this again, showing the difference of perspectives and perceptions changing to create such things. So,
Thank you. We have no light and it's getting really dark.
yeah,
Sorry.
this is also a means of communication. You see, it is ready to storm. There are many beings that use the elements to their advantage, and this cover, it is easier to communicate because of the rains that fall. Clear skies don't always make clear communications. The sun can burn this off. The moon is artificial intelligence, as you understand, but yet there is a value to the light and the energy of night. Remember this. Also, yes, I will pass it on to you, dear Vesa. Yes. Thank you. She will go from this point forth to the crystal. Okay. Yes. Telnorskus has not been back in quite some time. You also have noticed this. I am stating also, like what you two did yesterday at the beach, making it random and impromptu. I recommend this highly, as does Elena and many others. You need randomness. The AI latches onto what people always perceive as absolute structure and strictness. No, yes, you do need to schedule things. I'm not being asinine when I in that area. We do work and jobs ourselves, as do both of you in your ways. You go to a job, he does his work, we have work. Even though our schedules are a little looser, where we work, we go to a boring job of cataloging and things that don't need to be mentioned, that are so boring that they are anti-fun. Others may enjoy the nerd aspect of cataloging. We do not. But this does not mean that we are on a strict schedule. Yes, they do need the workers for this, but they can always interchange, kind of like the helmsman on the Enterprise, on Enterprise D, where you saw someone leave the chair and someone just walk towards it. It is very much like that. whereas someone was always there to fill space. It's just, yes, and we do work with currency where we are. We are on a what you would call world within worlds. New Ver Earth sits within a world within a world, and you would be surprised Serrano does as well. It is not just space, but dimensional space and time and frequency. And we are physical there as well as here. The space that we work jobs, yes, we earn currency as a result. Do we need it to pay for our home? No, 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 no. So he was correct in saying homes should be free in this respect and communications. However, we do need it for other everyday things to go do the things we want to do in other areas like vacations and what, like you do. So we are not too dissimilar, us and you. Well, the point I'm making is amidst the non-fun moments of cataloging, very much like the character on your uh, one of your Star Wars series is like Mandalorian or Andor was, where they were going through the computers and cataloging different items to be destroyed or looking through different items for recirculation, like on those two series respectively. This is essentially what we do. We did not mention this long before because it was too damn boring to talk about. But within that moment, see, we can communicate like he does, you do, always. It's easier to have an anchor, like what Telnorskus was saying. This is why we encourage him to get one for ourselves, so it was much easier. The thing I'm trying to get at is in these forms of, this is about forms of protection, in these moments of restlessness, you must find and maintain the anchor within itself. And I'm saying this to ourselves because we experience things no different than you. We are not gods, deities, or guides. We are like you just because we have a different form of technology, a different space, a different place, a different time, different frequency. Makes no difference. Get out of the space of worshiping a deity and have meaningful, unified connections. In a boring space or in a space where you are restless, remember who you are, why you are doing things, what you were doing it for, and if you are restless, I know some old warriors have PTSD either in their soul history or from SSP. And I did not mean to rhyme at that moment. That was everybody's saying this is cute, but that was not intended. Everybody's laughing. I can see this. They think it's girly cute, but I have my girly moments, but I also have the more direct moments. Unlike Isaac, who is a pain in our ass with pranks and jester moment. But in this, in the restless moments, flow into a moment. Don't think moments of rest or moments of uselessness. Old warriors have this mentality. Old soldiers have this mentality. You must always move. No. Fall into that moment. There will be no restlessness at all. The AI, even your FiOS that exists in this house, is trying to throw you into the mindless restlessness. Kind of like a restless leg syndrome, but for energetics and twitchiness and panic. Below, the groundedness, the ease, and know there are moments of relaxation. And even in our work, we have restless moments, but we are always grounded in who we are and what we are doing and why we are doing it. You have stated these facts yourself, but this is more generalized, not only to the information you want to present, but to everyone listening. This is what I want to say. You may be also in a job that is like ours. We don't necessarily have to be there to survive like humans on Earth. But if we want to do some of these other things, they ask that people do some of these menial tasks that they could probably hire an AI to do it. But I'm just saying, to be able to be in touch with other aspects of where we would want to go. Yes, you may be thinking, why? Can't you just portal somewhere? True. Absolutely true. But there unfortunately are tolls in life, you would say. At least from our perception. And even to come physically through the doorway to here, you have idiots at the gates that expect tolls, like a friggin' bridge troll with the three Billy Gruff story, that sort of thing. You have that. So you would say people paying their dues. People always associate that with spirituality. Oh, I have to pay my dues now. That's a wrong choice of words on a person's part. In that concept, you don't always have to pay your dues in a spirituality. That's like saying harsh, karma, boom, action, reaction, gavel, sword, axe. No. Keep that to your movies. Keep the warrior to when it is needed. And just know that yes, there are these things you run into in life like tolls, but like you did on the road yesterday, you just paid the damn thing. But there are times where there are times to refuse. You'll know those when you come across, you honor yourself and your own system of not only beliefs, but your own system of being. That will be is useful too, but in the times it is needed, sometimes you let things ride. So it is actually getting dangerous as far as the electricity goes. It is actually becoming creepy, let's just say. So we love thunderstorms, love it, but there is more of a arm wrestle going on at the moment. So I will leave you all to this. We love you both fully and completely, and we will be in touch as we usually are. Oh, one thing with Lena and Vesa, Lena and me, Vessa's relationship, we he has noticed that we sometimes can switch being the mouthpiece. We kind of do that weird role reversal where there is a focus towards one or the other. Do not be alarmed in that way. That's just how we prefer to do it. Having your own personal preferences and honoring the self is also a form of protection as well. So he thinks he's not honoring both of us by not being able to pay attention. It's like, no, this is how we prefer to do it. Eventually, she'll take center stage and talk like this as well. So this is when we were switching. That's when he noticed that it was back and forth. So I just figured I would mention this. So thank you all. Hmm. Yeah, they said the electricity was getting a little much, so as it was lightning and thundering. So yeah, it's thunderstorming where we are currently, and I don't want to risk this recording for that. For what's going on at the moment. I know it's affecting the technology. So anything you want to add? I know there's affirmation blessing at the end of this episode.
Well,
So
just in general, again, blessings to everyone that joined us on the call. You are a glorious soul. If you could only see yourself as we see you and understanding the magnificence of who you are in the right place at the right time to be able to grow in your journey if you so want to. And so we send you great blessings and honor you greatly. And thank you for being here.
thank you very much. We are now closing this circle at the end of this episode with true benevolence. And thank everyone that has appeared today, and you as well. Bye-bye now.
Hi, all. My name is Christopher Stephen Jacobs, and I have been physically inclined, all my life. My guides have made themselves known to me at the age of 5. When I was younger, they came to me in dreams as well as my imaginary friends. Sometimes we just played, and others they showed me things, took me places, and educated me on how our unseen world looked. It was hard for me because I thought everyone saw the world this way. I grew up going to Catholic school and their doctrine certainly did not agree with my perspective. So it was challenging. I was not alone. My mother, Katrina, was also born with these gifts. So, as you can imagine, our after-dinner conversations are not quite like most families. We have always had guides and different people come to speak and to speak. My skills took a great leap after an accident where I was struck while walking across the street. I was technically deceased for approximately 1 hour, but to me, I was in a new place surrounded by guides for about 2 weeks. When I woke back here, it was a surprise of the ambulance staff. After a few months of being a jumbled mess, my traditional psychic skills of a medium enhanced to talking to the galactic community. I also learned how to bilocate, heal others by removal of oppressive technology, heal others by delivering healing energy, and learn to interface in a defensive posture when needed. Since 2013, I have been speaking on multiple shows, giving information on my understanding of the world around us. Now that my feet are wet, so to speak, I am being called to lead a discussion on what knowledge I have been given. So here we are. I want to take a second and acknowledge all those worldly and off-worldly beings who have graciously encouraged me and assisted me to this moment. I want to thank my mother for just being a most amazing person. I want to thank Joanna for finally coming into my life. I want to thank Jerry and Kathy Wills for helping me gain access to a greater audience. I want to thank the Diamond Council members for letting me hone my skills with them on their shows over the last few years. And I want to acknowledge my guides, known as the Galactics, for being there even when I get frustrated and tell them to go away. I will not be alone in this show. I've asked Joanna to be my permanent co-host and hope my mother will join us on a regular basis. Joanna possesses a multitude of gifts as well, such as being a seer and psychic intuitive, but her passion is coaching and teaching. Joanna has helped immensely with the writings on this website. I thanked Joanna already for coming into my life, but let me expand a bit. For everyone who has read my first book, I spoke of a person who I had been searching for most of my adult life. I'm happy to say I found her. We are soulmates, and have lived multiple lives together. We are both remembering those past lives, as well as events during periods in what I have termed the backstage. I'll talk more about the backstage on future shows, but suffice to say we are here together, as we planned a long time ago, to assist humanity during these times. As the website states, our goal is to provide enhanced knowledge in order to gain a better understanding of the truths related to the world around, all existing in the now, past, present, and future. We are very excited to be here and are so grateful for anyone who gives us a moment to hear what we have to say. Now, let's get on with some basics to our show. Okay. Everyone will be placed on mute. There will be a welcome opening remarks by myself and Joanna. We will have a blessing. Then we have a discussion on the topic for that particular show. I will invite the Galactics in to participate. We will then open the floor for viewer questions towards the end of the show. All participants are in mute mode. If you have a question at the end of the show, please press *6 and you will be asked if you wish to be placed in a queue to ask your question. Press 1 to be in the queue. We will see who is lined up with the questions and we will unmute you to ask it in which they were received. We will have an ending affirmation and a blessing. and then end with any last notes. After the first few shows, we will be having guests to participate in the different discussions. We decided to start at the beginning with these first few shows. Therefore, anyone beginning their journey has a place to start. So these first few shows are what some would call the basic building blocks to understand these new energies that are taking us into the new curriculum of 5D. This is also another show that we will be doing on Thursdays. This will be the Viewer Questions show. We will also host this Viewer Question and Answer show every other Thursday starting January 19th. Send your questions to thelifting2017@gmail.com. Any question is acceptable. However, I will not be doing personal readings during this time. Questions should be generalized enough to help all. You can also get in the queue to ask questions during the live show by, again, pressing *6. Rules of the Tuesday show consist of this. No character assassination. People have the right to believe what they believe until new knowledge and discernment skills have them grow into a new truth. We will answer our understanding of a particular subject. Questions from listeners should be topic related. For example, today we will talk about the new education paradigm and protection. Now, on to the blessing that I myself have written, and so has Joanna. For all here in attendance, seen and unseen, during this maiden voyage of the lifting, we offer peace in a time of ever-changing energies. All are blessed. You can take it from here, Joanna.
Hi, everybody. This is Joanna. And we wanted to get started, again, kind of at the beginning, maybe giving some basics to our understanding of everything, so you know where we're starting from. So in general, what I'm going to discuss is, again, through our conversations with guides and different people, our basic understanding of what we're going through. And I'm going to try to do it. It's very detailed, and we'll talk about things more in depth, but just to give a general umbrella picture of what we believe is going on, I start in general with the very basic, that we do have a belief that there is a source. Some people refer to that as a God, but we refer to it as the source. We are all actually a part of that source. We are one with the source. And in general, before we were all in existence, the source itself, the one that is everything, basically wanted to separate itself into pieces and basically decide to discover itself again by creating different experiences. Those pieces, which you can think of yourself as one of those pieces, would not remember that they were actually a part of that one source. So part of the journey that we go through is about rediscovery about what everything means and our connection to the source. And we are in one of those learning experiences, or sometimes you may hear the word expressions. Right now, we're a part of a learning cycle. So we go actually through grades, curriculum, and the one thing that was congruent with, let's say, the Mayan calendar and the year 2012 and different things like that, is it really, there is some congruency about that and the ending of a learning cycle and the beginning of a new learning cycle. And so for those that are ready to enter the new courses for this new curriculum, there is changes that are going to begin and start to occur. So, and some people will refer to these different educational levels of learning as densities. And that's really what you have to I think, start thinking of this. One of the things that the Galactics have tried to stress to us is that we need to not see people on a higher level or a lower level. You've got to kind of look at everything as everyone's on the same level. You're just at different learning experience levels. So you don't want to think you're lesser than, and you don't want to think others are lesser than you. And that's being stressed a lot. So think of it as just different levels of educations. And so different densities are different levels of education that you're potentially experiencing. So we're coming out, or those that are ready to move on in their education are coming out of a 3D or a third density experience. And the learning curriculum in that 3D world was basically a time of experiencing who we are by who we are not. And so we refer to that oftentimes as duality. And we are going into fourth and fifth density. And basically in that area of fourth and fifth density, we're going into learning about the concepts of unity and love. So as we grow into these new densities, we gain more DNA that is activated and more generalized abilities, like, for example, seeing more of the light spectrum. There is also something referred to as the thinning of the veil, and we use that in quotes because, believe it or not, all of the concepts of the thinning of the veil that you may have heard of, we've been told, is actually a psyops. But if you use that term, quote, thinning of the veil, we kind of like to think of it as basically including remembrances of past lives and experiences and being able to see other beings that are normally outside of the 3D light spectrum. And so you're going to graduate into more abilities as you move into different densities. So whether a person is ready or not to move into this learning experience, it is a personal soul choice. There is no right or wrong answer. It's all about experience and growth. And we have all of eternity to learn and grow. And so each soul decides where they want to be and what they're ready for. So what we want to try to get into first in these discussions in this new education paradigm for those moving into 4 and 5D are a couple of key basics. And one of the key basics that's very, very important that you really have to learn and embrace is that concept of being authentic. Some have referred to this as just being you, or you may hear people, just be yourself, or just whatever. But in all honesty, most people are lost and they're like, I have no idea who I really am. And why is that? Well, because basically, you've been looking at the world around you and seeing yourself more through other people's eyes and what their expectations are. And everybody's been very busy just trying to keep a roof over their head and different things, and you don't have a lot of time necessarily to sit back and figure out exactly who you are. But that is kind of an expectation moving into these energies, that basically taking the time and learning about yourself and becoming very authentic is going to be important. So what does that mean? Well, what it means basically is that being you, being your authentic self, it literally means speaking from your heart space and dropping all pretense of what you think others want to hear you say, or what is politically correct, or what is controversial, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It requires less mind editing and more in the moment. So if you take away nothing else from this discussion today, please know that you need to learn to be more authentic with all, but especially you need to start with being authentic with yourself. You need to forget everyone else's desires and wishes for you and from you. What do you truly think from your heart about and then just fill in the blank with whatever subject comes to mind. No more fear or hiding because of fear of judgment. It can take a bit of courage to truly find and be your authentic self, but it will open the doors to a more genuine and authentic life when you focus on what really matters to you. I'd also like to say that when you first start to be authentic, you may just be experiencing a freedom to say what you or others have been suppressing, and you still don't know who you are yet. As an example of this, it's when you really get all built up emotionally, and then you say what comes to the top of your mind, and then you end up regretting what you just said. Happens to all of us. But remember, I said what comes to the top of your mind, which is not your heart. Processing things through your mind too much allows the all-protective and easily hurt ego to take hold, and you may go into a defensive mode, trying to protect yourself from all kinds of perceived and potential threats. Besides showing you are feeling threatened and in need to protect yourself, you may not be expressing authentic thoughts towards the given subject matter. And you know what? That's okay. You've got to start somewhere. So that's where you need to be courageous and understand that you need to learn this skill and that you're not going to necessarily be perfected when you first start it. The more you practice being authentic, you will then audit yourself and become better and better at expressing yourself. It takes time. It really is a skill that you have to relearn. So you can feel it when you speak through your heart. It can feel like your head is silent for the moment, and the words are literally coming through that chest-heart space. It really feels that way. And then you wonder, what in the world's going on? Because I don't feel I'm really thinking of anything. These words are just coming out. Because you've actually let go of the editing of the mind, and you are speaking through that heart space. And it really feels that way. So you need to practice, and you will notice when you're doing it. So you need to take the time to reflect. Were you authentic in your daily life? Did you speak your truth when asked? If you are unsure, then you need to keep working until you are sure. Even stating confusion or anger or frustration is okay if it is a genuine state. And they are genuine states. So don't be hard on yourself. So why is there so much focus on being authentic? Why am I stressing this so much right now? And I'm just going to really just cut to the end of this and basically give you the bottom line. So for this audience, the people that are listening here, I think a lot of people are tuned in because they want to hear all about the Galactics and they want to hear from them. And they really, bottom line, have a desire to interact with them. Many of the beings out there are a bit further along in their education, and they can read you. Even if you cannot, they can. Many of them want an authentic interaction. It is just as simple as that. But others out there want to have a lopsided interaction where they still manipulate. So again, you need to know who you are to know if you're being manipulated in any way. Which leads me to the next discussion point that we want to talk about tonight, and that is of protection. And I'm going to let Chris lead that discussion.
All right. Thank you, Joanna. Now, this is actually a very important subject. I get a lot of calls from people on this very subject. How to defend, how to protect oneself against things such as implantation, demonic possession, and the like. And which brings me first to, why do we need it in the first place? Won't our guides protect us in these times? That's also a bit of a debate people have had, and I always tell them that in these new energies, in these new 4 5D energies. It's not like it was in 3D. It's not like the guides will come at our beck and call all the time. People get kind of disgusted when I say this, when I do the readings for people, because always in the past, guides have always come to the rescue, like a police department, fire department, what have you, or 911 call. And this isn't the case, because they are trying to teach us. They're trying to teach us not only authenticity, being true to ourselves, but they're trying to teach us that we are Source incarnate. We are Source itself. So in order to teach these things, we have to in order to learn these things, and they teach us, we have to run into situations that we are forced to use these particular skills. I myself have run into these very situations, like with the Draco, for instance, who have shown up constantly, archons, the same difference, where I have been forced time and time again to bring out my defenses, my shielding. And this is not something, at first I thought that it was kind of a nuisance, that there was no purpose to it. And I couldn't have been any more wrong. Back when I lived in Lincoln, Nebraska, there was a time where I had an epiphany, because I would constantly call on the guides for protection. I call in Michael, which I still speak to him to this day. It's not like I completely cut him off or anything, and that's something I also would not recommend. But it's more of I realized it was more of a 50-50 deal with them. It is you can call on them, sure, but they are going to step back to see how you bring out the inner God within, and I'm going to describe how you do this now. What you do, I'm going to describe protection first, and then I'm going to lead to why the bad guys do what they do. How to protect from it. You visualize a white core, or whatever color you see as protection. Doesn't necessarily even have to be white. Most people recognize white with good, so I'm using that as an example. Bring out your infinite, godly source core from the center. Stretch it outward around you in an infinite barrier. See it as eternally infinite. See yourself as creation itself. You are creation itself. Use that very mantra, I am creation itself. When you do this, you can mix and match it up however you want, saying I am the infinite one, I am creation itself, I am the I am. Use whatever you feel your word for source is. I am God, I am creation, however you wish. Mean it, feel it, to the point where you even see a different vibrancy in plants, in the sky, in the people around you. Do this, and I can guarantee you're going to see results from it. If you truly attain this, you are going to see results. And I even before I did these things, I was in a state where I was constantly in almost like a combative mode. It was more of a, how can I put it? More of like an us versus them type of mode. And I came to quickly realize that was not the way to do things, because I saw that I was getting more bombarded than usual, and that was to teach. Now, are all dark things there to teach? No, there's an overage of darkness, which I won't completely get into at the moment, but there is an overage, an unnecessary amount. And this leads me to how do they harvest our energies? There's varying methods on how they do this. The Draco in particular will take shards of energy from people. The Greys do the same thing, where they ingest it and they use it, they absorb it into their very being, even though the Greys do absorb genetics. The Draco will absorb the energy and use it to sustain their own life force. There are implants that can also harvest energy and bring in attachments and even contain a consciousness within them. I've personally encountered that one. There are attachments that look like leeches or lamprey that attach to the base of the spine. I find those quite often. Some sit within your abdomen, and they block your soul light from reaching every other part of you because they are harvesting that energy not only from your genetics but your inner light. And there are situations where you're emotionally fed off of. The Archons are very good at doing this. The Draco are good at this as well, where they'll subtly change your emotional state over a period of time. You're taking time to process these states, and then before you know it, you're in their snare. And I've encountered all of these particular methods. They cause chaos and fear. They can do it either very rapidly or very subtly. In recent days, they've chosen the subtle methods. Let me see. Well, also the guides. Why won't the guides do it for us now? As I've said before, it's a 50-50 rule with them. Per the phrase, God only helps those who help themselves. Michael especially has brought this to light for me on my guide Simeon, and the soul grouping known as M have brought this to light for me. You help them better help you by helping you. You are actually the more important factor here. You are God. You are an expression of God. They, even though they are as well, they are the parent figures trying to remove the training wheels from you. Okay, here's a good example. Say your parent is trying to help you ride your bike. That parent is not going to be riding that bike with you. No, they will expect you to one day take those training wheels off that bike and ride it yourself around the block. This is an example that I have been shown. This is needed to be able to interact with the galactics because there are service to self races out there who will take our energy. As I said before, the guides cannot see everything. They're not omnipotent gods. This is very, very, very important. They are not omnipotent. They are equals in every way, shape, or form. Michael, and Jesus and all of them, some people would call this attitude blasphemous. Some would think I'm being arrogant by saying this, but I'm saying now they are our equals in every way. They're our brothers and sisters. It'd be like if you went over to your neighbor's house every time you got into some kind of trouble or somewhere. That neighbor would go, God, go take care of this yourself after a while. Hence, I've run into this very same attitude with a lot of our galactic brothers and sisters out there. They will help you as best they can. They will help you co-create with them. But will they come to your rescue or ride to your rescue every single time? No. No, they will not, and with good reason. We would not want them to. What if we would fail in our attempts to protect ourselves? Will our guides abandon us and allow for immense harm? This is actually a subjective question. Each person needs to define harm. There will be some rub in this process of growth. And what I mean by rub is this. Everyone here listening to this has had somebody in their life that is just plain obnoxious or in some way. We've all had these people that just get under our skin in some way. We see these people in society. We see them in our daily lives. These are people that actually aid in our growth. But per their behavior, per this behavior, we have seen what we do not want around us. We have seen this. This is also Source's way of teaching us. This is our guide's way of teaching us. Our guide's purpose is to ensure we stay within the bounds of our learning experience. They must consider free will factors and agreements made with other entities. This is another reason that they don't always get involved either. Say you've unwittingly given your consent to a trickster. I've run into this in many people's reads where they thought they've run into an angel or some kind of angelic being. And it's no complete fault to the person unless they've really wantonly done it, that they know it's a dark being and then they still go into it. I saw this even the other day with a friend of mine, where a cherished guide of hers was actually an Arconian being that had tricked her as a child. And I rid her of this Archon presence, but she had to denounce its permission 3 times before it was able to leave, and the guides were able to actually take care of it properly and help her properly. That's part of that 50-50 process. That's discernment, but that's for another show. We are doing our next show on discernment. I will go into more in depth on that at that time. But suffice it to say, it is very, very important and very, very crucial to protection. They also take into account our learning process. They need to slowly step back to encourage us to call upon the source within? And yes, I believe so. Maybe not so much now, but will to come as we pass more into these new energies. The more these energies are becoming balanced, the more these energies are becoming fused, the more our ideals of a dualistic energy is becoming unwoven and undone, audited, if you will, the more that we must call on the source within and less upon our brothers and sisters. Not to say that we should not. I highly encourage working with guides, highly, highly encourage it, because there are situations that we are not prepared for just yet. So with that, I'm going to pass this over to Joanna to discuss how much they have been doing for us that we did not know. Some people are wondering why they could not repel bad things, and now they can't because they were not actually by themselves to begin with. So with that,
I'm going to see if I'm working now.
Okay, good. Her side is actually working now, so I will actually pass this over to her. She has her own headset now, so I will mute out.
Okay, so this is a very interesting subject because this has come up a lot in the last few weeks with different people who basically were saying things like, I was always able to repel them. I was always able to do this and do that, and now it's not working anymore, and my guides are nowhere to be seen. And so I want to bring that up specifically, and just, again, it goes back to something that Chris just said about, but I want to reiterate it, that your guides are not abandoning you, but they are acting like that parent, and you are in the process of learning to ride that two-wheeler. And so what you don't know and what you have no historic knowledge of in the past is, although you thought you were potentially slaying those dragons on your own, basically, you didn't realize that they were all around you actually letting you, like the child who did something great, and the parents actually never told that child that they actually helped out. And they let that child, by building that child's confidence, they let that child believe that they actually did it all themselves. So you have to be open to the understanding that your guides always were participating in your protection. It's one of the things about being in 3D, the calling of not from within, but the allowance of all that's around you, that outside who's helping you. That's allowed. That's an understandable part of 3D. But now that we're getting into these new energies, it's going to be all about you learning. And it's a slow learning process where you're going to call it from within because you are sourced from within. And so it's just that your perspective didn't see the total picture before. You didn't know that they were actually behind the scenes helping you so much, and they were. And now slowly they're going to step back. But I can guarantee you the goal is they're not letting you come to total destruction. That's not what it's all about. It's about slowly giving a little bit more so you can learn to grow in your experiences and become confident in your new skills. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate that. So another question that I really want Chris, to address has to do with there's a lot of people out there that have been taught a concept that if we raise our frequency high enough, that we don't really need to work on protecting ourselves anymore. Our being in that higher frequency will just make that Teflon coat and everything just slides right off. And so that's not our understanding, but I'd like Chris to kind of talk about that a little bit more now.
All right, I will do so, yes. Can we raise our frequency high enough to stop the need for protecting ourselves? I will say no to that, and not just a no, that's an over-resounding no, because this is my justification for this. Yes, there are many texts out there saying, if we get that frequency high enough, we will not be seen by the bad guys. This is true for beings who have earned their stripes in the muck and the mire. These are for beings that have their genome has gotten to such a pinnacle along with their spiritual thinking that they are able to conjure such energies. Now, I have noticed that in the past when I have attempted this particular energy raising, which I completely support, I've attempted this myself, and I have noticed that I have lit up like a beacon, more so for the bad guys to come and attack me. And I was confused when this came up, because I was severely confused. I was always taught and always heard that the high frequency would always forever protect me. What the misconception is about this is that the human energy core, from what I see in people, is part genetic and part spiritual. We are in a human coat, we are in a human density, human experience, but we have divine inclinations, divine knowledge, and the like. With this, we are actually having to climb up the ladder. And also, with this, the high frequency at this stage will not completely mask a body that is grounded in the density that we are in. So, in this instance, there is another trick that I have used, well, along, of course, with declaring yourself source. When you get your frequency as high as you want it, and I always encourage you to have your frequency as high as you can ever get it. But there is this one trick I call the charcoal layer. I envision a charcoal layer, not dark energy. People have misinterpreted me on this. Not dark energy. A charcoal layer, very much like a soldier using camouflage in the woods, or fatigues. Charcoal layer surrounding that high frequency so that you are invisible to forces that want to do harm. That way, you are using your intent and your intention to camouflage you. This is a technique I've seen the Agartha Network use on many occasions. I always wondered what this smoky layer was around them. Many people have interpreted this as demonic and hellish in nature. And one of my guides, a Bendigoth, told me, no, this is what I would call the charcoal layer. Their people actually taught it to us many years ago, but it was misinterpreted as evil and dark. So this is why nobody is ever encouraged to use it. Another misinterpretation of this high frequency, I will only briefly, very briefly touch on this. This is going to be a subject for another episode. This was mentioned on the Diamonds Network about a set of white knights that wore white armor. This is something some friends of mine would appreciate me saying for the next few seconds. So I will acknowledge that some of the mythology surrounding this white high frequency or coat of white has to do with the mythology of these white knights. I will leave that open for a different show. I just wanted to acknowledge that bit of history. So, in ways of protecting, a sample of ways of protecting yourself, as stated in the blog, source light from within, abdomen and growing outwards. Joanna here suggested mirrors surrounding self, turn and face outwards. Don't forget feet and head. I suggest also charcoal layer and the I am creation itself, matter or variations thereof. Now, I'm going to a section that I'm going to get in might actually be disagreeable with some people, but I'm not out to offend or anything like that. So, what I'm about to say is relying on symbols, crucifix, or even that law of one symbol that you see me toting around quite often. I don't rely on symbols. I work in conjunction with symbols. I always bring the protection from within and have physical manifestations that represent that inward protection around me. This shows my human mind and my human self that I automatically already am imposing within myself this godly state. It has to come from within first. It must always come from within first. Yes, there is a source creator. There always has been. Yes, there are protectors out there. But statues and idols and symbols, such as a crucifix, which in all was actually created by the dark agenda. I won't get into that part right now. But these symbols, though some of them are manifestations, or at one point were manifestations of good, they are not being brought from within and manifested outward. People are thinking that putting a particular symbol in a particular place will automatically repel without the person ever having to do anything at all. And that is simply false. You have to put work in it yourself. You have to maintain the barriers around your home, be it through ritual and using these symbols, but conjured from the inward to the outward, or just knowing that you have that protection that you're conjuring yourself. The guides have brought this up many times to me, that people rely too much on effigies, idols, and symbols. And this is not something that this is not something they want. They don't want people relying on them 100% of the time, as I've stated, any guide or angelic or outward source, because you are source walking the earth at the moment. You are source. Yes, you can consult the higher. I use higher in quotes because according to the guides, there's no such thing as higher or lower. It's all equal. You can consult a higher source, an infinite source, outwardly for knowledge exchange. But that outward source will always say that you are part of it. You are it. You are an expression of it. That is always the response I've gotten from the creator energy. That is the only response I've ever gotten from the creator energy. What about our children? People have asked this of me many times. Can we protect them? When do they have to do it? How old do they have to be to have things like to at what age is it appropriate to stop doing revocations and protection for them? This was a very good question that I was asked, and I've had this come up in several reads. Per the guides, this is the information they gave me. It is somewhere between the ages of 13 and 16, depending on spiritual maturity and cellular genetic growth. To use this example, human adults cannot get to the point of becoming invisible because of rising frequencies, because the DNA is not mature enough yet. Besides spiritual maturity, the body DNA must be ready as well. So that is the answer I was given by my guides about children and their readiness to undertake this particular task. And what about others? Can we help protect someone else who does not know about this subject? This is another question I'm told quite often about people that are skeptical, but yet they are being bombarded, or if they're of a different belief system and would not accept this new paradigm. I was told you can always ask Source to watch over them, the outwardly Source. If you have the ability, you can take off attachments like I do. I remove attachments from people. But if they are meant to be there, then they will go right back. I'm going to use an example. I will not give my friend's name. I don't think he would appreciate this very well. But I had a friend that had a demon attachment on the back of his neck, or within the platinum chakra on the back of the neck. And I looked into this. I knew it was there, so I figured, okay, this is my friend. I'm going to remove this. But when I did so, it was my two of my guides by the name of Bugnassi and, of course, Michael stepped forward and asked me what I was doing. I said, I'm removing this demon from him. It's dangerous. They said, no, trust us. He needs this here right now. Without it, he will not be able to learn what he's supposed to do to get to his most optimum timeline. I'm like, all right, I trust you, but I don't like this. I don't like the fact that this being is there. And they acknowledged what I said. They understood what I said. Well, many, many months later, in fact, it was almost a year later after that point, his life from that point collapsed in on itself for a second time. And now in the current day and age, because he himself released this demon, which had been cycling off of his energy for quite some time. He himself released it. He himself did the appropriate inner work. He is now actually getting married and is with his soulmate that he knew from a long time ago. And he's at the happiest I've ever seen him. So, that is a very prime example. He's a prime example of growth from this. The average person without psychic gifts can use their imagination to have a conversation with this other person and try to reason with them on a soul level. This is actually making contact, believe it or not, because that center of the brain that people imagine with is the very same center of the brain used in telepathy, used in remote viewing and the like. You imagine things into existence. You can imagine talking to the person, and you actually are speaking to them on some level. You can visualize a positively changed person that can assist as well, but it will always be the other person's free will decision to change or not. Now, there is a section of this that I do want to add into this show. I advised a friend of mine several months ago if she wanted to make some changes in her life. She's a fiction writer. I said, okay, use your imagination to come in contact with the very people you are wanting to help. There was somebody she was wanting to help, but she didn't know how to get through to this person. So I said, okay, create a character, create a scenario, and create a place that your friend is set free from whatever is going on with him. Write it into existence in some kind of fictional paradigm, in a book. Whereas in real life, this person failed, write in that he was triumphant in some scenario. Well, in that instance, she did so, and it ended up working. So, that is, for any of you novelists out there and writers out there that have a knack for that, that's a way to conjure this as well. So, this leads me to this leads me to the towards the end of the show here, the galactic contribution. This will be greetings from the different galactics out there, and this will be a little bit longer than an hour tonight, folks. This is the very first show, so just bear with us. This will be a bit longer than an hour, but just know the rest of the shows that will be out there will be an hour long. So I will get to finding any galactics that are actually in the room with us this evening. And then after I get through delivering their messages, I will then open up for questions with the Q&A queue. Like I said in the beginning of the show, it will be *6, and you will be asked to press 1 to be added to the caller Q&A queue. And I will answer the questions in the order in which the call was received in the queue. And that will be after I deliver the galactic contribution. So, I will now see who is actually in the room with us that could actually talk about this subject of protection. And whichever guide is so inclined to come through, or set thereof. Okay, this is something. This is someone that people that have heard me on the Diamonds Network will actually know. This is Joyous that is actually coming through at the moment. And for people on this call that are not familiar with Joyous or his people, I will give a very brief rundown. Joyous is a being known as a Ligurian. The Ligurians themselves, as a people, they look like frog-type beings. They're tall, upright, frog-looking beings. They've been called by other galactics, they've been called the Joyous Ones. This is why Joyous uses the name that he does. They've always been known to be happy and joyful in some way. They also have been called the Ones of Storytime, or the beings of Storytime. You might actually recognize his people from the book series The Wind and the Willows. He told me to pay close attention to these storybooks of children that have frog-like figures in them because they were being depicted. And the place where Joyce's people come from is the Andromedan galaxy, but they, for the most part, anymore live in the Pleiadian star clusters. So, I'm going to bring him through for the subject of protection, and I will then see if any other galactic wants to come through. If not, then we will begin the questions. Give me just a moment. Greetings, all of you listening to within earshot of my voice. I am the one you know of as Joyous. I wish to state to all of you joyful ones listening tonight the concept that has been therefore discussed of protection is the most important of concepts. You, as extensions of the one creator consciousness, the joyful ones in the newest age upon your world, must adhere to seeing yourself as the individuals that you are, correct? But in this instance, you must also see yourself as one with everything. Keeping your identity intact is most prevalent. Keeping and honoring to the oneness is most prevalent. Become your most authentic self. Also, by saying that you are one with Source, you are one with everything. You are protection itself. You are creation itself. You are one with all things. You are one with my people. I am a mirror for you, joyful ones, and you are a mirror for me, joyful ones. We are all mirrors for each other. We all feel the pain and the anguish of each other. We all feel the joy and the happiness of each other. This is what my people had to learn many, many centuries ago, when we too were oppressed at one time. You may be wondering, why am I so joyful now, knowing that I was oppressed? For one, this was so very long ago, but we, as the Ligurian species, know of this, acknowledge this, and have bypassed this, with acknowledging that we are one with all things. We are joy itself. We are joyfulness. We are happiness. We are balance. We are discernment. We are the all-seeing knowingness in each other. We see, yes, but this does not mean we are above you. We are your equals because we are one with all things, as are you. We share no title above each other in a, as you would say, hierarchical fashion, because we do not acknowledge one higher or lower than ourselves. We acknowledge you as our brothers and sisters in the sun. We acknowledge all things joyful, and all things positive, and all things balanced, and all things authentic, as some would say. This is what I have come to say this evening, but just know that the joyous ones watch over you, always, our dearest joyful brethren in the sun. Thank you. All right. This was Joyous, as I've said before, who is now stepping back. I will see if there is anyone else. If no one else wishes to speak this evening, I will then open the floor up. Let us see here. I will ask... Okay, there is one more being that wishes to speak. People also know him from my time on the Diamonds Network. His name is Chewanda, and he is a member of a Native American Pleiadian race of people we would recognize as the ancient Mayans. Now, people have thought that some of the Native American species or people came from the inner earth. This is only a half-truth. His people have been coming to Earth for generations. They themselves were oppressed by our standards not that long ago. But before that time, some of their people came to Earth. Some of them went to Mars and then from there went down to the inner Earth, like with the blonde-haired Nordics. This particular race is one that's going to make more and more contact with us as time goes on. They are going to be the forerunners for, as we would think of as disclosure. But they are going to do it slowly. They are going to be our neighbors, our brothers, very much like other galactics have said through me over the many months. But the difference between some of them and this particular race is this. This particular race is more like your average Joe. They look Native American. They essentially are Native American, but they are more like our average Joe. We would get along better with them instead of, say an 8-foot-tall Nordic that we would have to look up to all the time. These people are our height, our weight, our look, our type, and this is why they've been chosen for this. Chewanda is coming through this evening to also talk about this topic of protection. And I'm going to let him take the floor here in just a moment. I'm going to get a drink here because this dries me out very easily. All right. Greetings all. My name, as this one has said, is Chewanda. I am of a race of people your people know quite well in your histories. Think of the ancient Incan Empire, Mayan empires, and your many scattered native tribes. I share cousinship with all of them, and to you, my dear brethren, humanity. I wish to state a most important topic this evening, one of protection of self and protection of people around you. This is a concept my people had to learn, as you would say, the hard way as well, from our oppression from the ones you know of called the Draco and AI and artificial intelligence and the like. What I state now is this. When you are undergoing a metamorphosis or transformation or even a possession, as you humans put it, or, as you say, an oppression moment, other people around you become terribly affected by these particular instances. It is so very important to actually keep your inner core safe from these beings, because in an instance where you're in a household, say with at least one other person or many other people, your accordance or agreement with darker beings actually harms the people around you. This is something my people learned and had to learn over and over and over again in order to be able to teach this night. I myself, a very, very long time ago, by your standards, was within our household with many of our extended family members. In this particular instance, I myself became terribly crippled by that of what you would call a demonic possession. This is actually a variation of internal programming, allowing the allowance of said entity to transport within the soul seat of one. But that is not why I'm here to state this. My factual upbringings in this instance bore truths. In this particular instance, as I went through these terrible, as you would say, possessions, people around me began to feel the energy friction on an intuitive level. They began to generate fear energy, began to generate friction on an electronic level, which not only affected our technology, but then allowed these particular beings to, as you say, body jump from one person to the next, which caused even more chaos. It is because of my mistake in that instance, thinking that I could withstand such things. I did not protect myself properly by acknowledging myself as being the God within. I thought that I could withstand any storm and stand on the precipice of change and the precipice of oppression and not have my family get actually, as you say, oppressed. I was actually wrong by not protecting myself and not protecting my inner core. I actually became just as harmful to them as the being that harmed me was to me. So, if I could give any advice here and now, is this. Please not only think of just yourself in an egocentric way. Think of yourself as the God within. Therefore, this transmutes to people around you, and you are not allowing in something that could potentially harm the loved ones around you. This is what I've come to say this evening, but I will be back on future shows through this one to tell people more about my home planet and other concepts that people wish to know about myself and our role on your world thusly. Thank you. All right. Looks like Chawanda is now stepping back. And I'm not seeing anyone else that wishes to talk this evening. So I'm seeing many galactics helping to buffer some of the energies this evening, but I do not see anyone else that wishes to speak. So I will now open up the Q&A to anyone who wishes to ask a question. So go in and dial *6, and when it prompts you, press 1, and you will end up in the Q&A queue. And I will respond to the questions as they come through one at a time. I will give people a few minutes to do so. Okay, I will pull this person off mute right now. Go ahead and mute out Joanna. I'll answer this person's question. All right, you are unmuted now with the last 4 digits of your phone number, 1646. What's your question?
Hey, Chris. This is Terry from Pennsylvania.
Oh, hello, Terry. How are you this evening?
How's it going? Yeah, I'll just make it real quick for tonight, but I feel like don't we need like protection from like say Christianity and a lot of these religions that try to affect us and control us? You want to talk about that tonight?
Oh, yes, most definitely. This is actually also very important. I'm glad you brought this up because from what I've understood, this is something that would also fall into the discernment category. From what I understand, religions like Christianity were actually created by the dark agenda to be able to muddy the waters when it came to evolution. And that bit of programming has actually been very bad for people. from what I have seen in the modern age, especially people that are trying to actually better themselves, people that are actually trying to evolve. I've noticed one of the worst things I've run into in people's reads is trying to get out of that religious programming, trying to shed
Right.
themselves of that old way of thinking. It's been some people it's hell. Some people they don't know anything's wrong, and that's okay too. That's not their path. But I have noticed with people that are willing to step out of it, it has been very, very, very rough on them to try to accept, like aliens, for instance. Some Christians that I have run into personally, they quote the Bible verbatim by saying God put man on earth, and they won't acknowledge that even their Jesus Christ could possibly be an extraterrestrial. They won't hear it. No, and so yes, it is pretty detrimental.
I mean, they call aliens demons and all this, and really, they're hurting themselves by being misled and not checking into new ideas.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, and okay, Joanna, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd like to say something about that. So I think part of it again is having a little stepping back and having a little larger perspective to say that when we were in the environment of having a 3D experience, it had a role contributing to that experience, setting up the dualities and, the good versus the bad. What is good? So it had a role. Now, did it get out of control? Absolutely, it got out of control. And, we'll be the first ones to say that, we refer to it kind of as the darkness. But, the darkness did get out of control. They played their part way too well, and they got way out of control. And so part of that now is the unraveling of the concept that we were in a duality. How was that all around us and we didn't even realize it? Untangling that ball of yarn so that we can move forward. So I think, what you brought up is actually a great point, but it's not about thinking them as an enemy, because that still leaves you in that duality mindset. What you have to understand is you're growing to the point of gaining your discernment skills that you're realizing, aha, that actually may just have been a rub, and I need to see a bigger picture and have a better understanding, because you want to move forward out of it. And so, and it's going to be hard, but it also in the concept of something we really didn't discuss tonight, which we will be discussing several shows from now, is the concept of that who's ready and what's going to happen with them with their new experience, and what's happening with the people that aren't ready. So the people that aren't ready are probably going to still be experiencing and as things as they were, and maybe not wanting to grow and move forward because they're not ready to grow and move forward. And so they may still believe very intently. And again, part of what we want everyone to grow and understand is they have that right. I mean, that's where they are in their learning process. So what we're doing and what we're talking about is not everyone's cup of tea. And we're not trying to convince everyone. We're trying to, help people who are ready to kind of move into these new energies, to think of things at a higher level, to see it at the 1,000-foot level, and see that there was maybe a purpose for things before, and now we're going to unwind and understand them so that we can move forward. So it had its role, but in moving forward, the ones that are going to be moving forward, it's going to get dismantled and seen differently.
Right, and it's going to be a battle, because they're going to call us the bad guys, and we're going to call them the bad guys. It just seems like it's hard to do peacefully.
Well, part of that for yourself, think of it like this, is that you want to get out of the dual thinking. So it's just like, for Chris and I to be able to do a show like this. We can just listen to the mile long of people that don't like what we're doing, and we could engage them, but but why? We're not in the dual thinking anymore. We don't want to engage that anymore. We want to move ahead. We understand that people aren't going to agree with us, and we're just basically going to sit around and have conversations, and the people that are like-minded are going to find us and have these conversations. So part of us is going to be disengaging from that old way of being. And basically, we all have family members that aren't going to agree with us, and I wish them well, and I wish everyone peace or whatever, and wherever they are in their learning, but I don't have to engage in it. I can just state my truths, be authentic, and continue on with the conversation and not feel the need to get into an argument about it with anyone. And that's part of our challenge moving forward as well, disengaging from that dual way and getting involved in that.
I think one way that would help is if we, started to see a lot more UFOs and people actually finally saw it and believed it, and then, and started going from there, and then, that would make it a little easier.
Oh yeah. I believe with some that will take place. My mother always told me that in order to see it, you would have to believe it first. And my guide Simeon said something along similar lines, unless that person was supposed to have that spontaneous, epiphany. Some people aren't going to see it at all. I heard a story one time. I'll do a brief example. There were two guys walking along a beachfront, and both of them saw a spaceship. Well, only one of them saw it as a spaceship. The other person saw it as a 747. And no matter how much the other person tried to convince him, the person even got a picture of it, showed other people. This person still could not see it because that person was so deep in a programming, but they were also not ready for it as well. So that all they saw was an airplane.
That's the whole story about the 9/11 attack. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll keep it short for tonight.
All right, thank you for calling in, Terry. Have a nice night.
Yep, you too. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got another caller on the line here with the ending of the phone number 2512. I'm going to unmute you now. Hello, caller. Welcome to the lifting. What is your question?
Hi, Christopher. This is Joni from Puerto Rico. How are you doing?
Oh, hi, Joni. How are you this evening?
I'm very excited for your new show, you and Joanna. Congratulations. Very, very exciting. And I'm glad to be here to listen to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. It's good to have you on here. What was your question for this evening?
Well, with the theme of protection, I was wondering what one could do for protection from ancestral karma.
Oh, that is actually a very good question because I've heard of these lineage curses before, as some have called them. Some things have to do with the grays, other things with other species like, say, the jinn I've run into the most of this with. And with this whole thing with ancestral karma, what I've had to do is I've looked back on the person's lineage and help basically rewrite it like I would a past life. This goes back to the whole imagination thing. Do you really believe that you're trapped in an ancestral wheel of karma? No, you don't necessarily have to believe that you are. You just conjure it and manifest it like anything else. Visualize even the ancestor that could have possibly fallen for the trick that got you embroiled in that karma to begin with. Visualize them and even imagine yourself communicating with them and ask them to reverse it. Ask them to not become an active participant in it. You'd be surprised how much that timeline shifts, because I've seen this actively work myself by doing readings. Other people have told me from that rewriting they have actually become better, and that they've noticed that ancestral lineage curses, some have told it actually works wonders. Another thing that works wonders is soul contract revocations. I have written many myself that are for specific things like lineage curses and like collapsing timelines and the like. And that's another thing. You would be very, very, very surprised that would actually does work. I've had it work within myself. Joanna here has had it work. I've had many friends try it. I've had other clients try it. And with some, it has immediate effects. Other people, it takes a little while. But those two things that I just mentioned do work.
Wonderful. Very good. Well, thank you so much. I'll keep it brief as well since we went over the hour. So I just wanted to thank you again and congratulate you.
Yeah, thank you, Joni. You have a nice night.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm not seeing anyone else in the Q&A queue. I'll give anyone a minute to actually dial *6. All right. I see. All right. I see you here, Albert. Thank you for joining us on the show this evening. What's your question?
Hey, Chris. Just want to congratulate you on your show. Just a quick question. I'll keep it short also. The one I have is, will there always be a need for individuals on the warrior/protector path when the changes are coming?
I believe it will take a different shape. I believe the warrior energy is always going to be there, and this is something Michael would say as well. I believe it's going to manifest in a different way. It would be more or less like a peacekeeper. Think of Star Wars for a minute. Think of the Jedi Knights. They say they're peacekeepers versus not soldiers. They're keepers of the peace. They are defenders, but they are not soldiers. There's a difference there. Michael brought this example to me himself. He said people have to be authentic to themselves. If they are not of a how can I put it? I don't want to use the word pacifistic because that's actually a good concept. If they are not, if certain things are not their cup of tea, they would be lying to themselves by saying that they're anything but their authentic self. So if helping others and helping protect others is their vocation of choice, is their path of choice, then so be it. But don't let it get out of control and turn into something that it is not, like something overtly, in favor of the dark agenda or anything like that. But a balanced energy, something that is more attuned to the new energies. Like I said, in a peacekeeping sort of way. There's always, I would be, lying to people if I said that there wouldn't be a need to defend oneself, against anything, because you never know what's going to be around in the future. You never know what's going to be coming around the next day. You really don't. Not with the shifting timelines. So to say that you had to rid yourself of the warrior tendencies, that's a misconception completely.
And Albert, what we've been actually told is that if there's another part of you, another side of you that is actually kind of a little bit monkish and sits and meditates and has that other side to counterbalance it, that actually, believe it or not, both of those is actually part of a person who is balanced. So it's about not being lopsided, but having those tendencies to want to speak out or defend or do whatever are wonderful qualities, like Chris was saying, as long as it's not unbalanced. But if you already possess that other part of yourself where you're meditative and you're thinking a lot and you're doing that inner work as well, that actually is a sign of someone who's actually quite balanced. So I'm curious whether or not you may be thinking you're unbalanced when actually you may be more balanced than you think.
Okay. I understand that. Can I ask one more quick question?
Of course.
As times are going and changes are happening, I had a quick question because I have this feeling that our negative energies picking up, as in like things or beings or whatever may happen, there to step in your path.
Oh, most definitely.
Like a challenge.
Yeah, most definitely. Especially beings like the Draco Archons, they're all about that challenge. They thrive in it. They're in desperation mode at the moment, and we've encountered this most recently, especially with the Archons. Most recently, they're in such desperation mode. They're trying to keep the old way as much as possible. So yes, they will. They have stepped up their game 1,000% in this recent energy because of that fear mode that they're in. They don't know what the future is going to bring from them. They don't want to find out. They just want to keep things in status quo, and that's not how the things are going to work here in the new energies.
Okay, because I've noticed there's a lot of happenings and stuff where people that that have always been a certain way, and they act out in a way that nobody's ever seen. And sometimes I don't recall it. So I was just wondering.
Yes, that would be a form of possession, oppression, and that's quite common. If it's a personality trait that is unbeknownst to anybody else, or is not familiar to anybody else that person would do, that is a classic oppressive behavioral trait. Yes.
Okay. I was just making sure. I was just having this feeling. I just wanted to verify a few things, and and I guess talk about it on another show on certain incidences that happened, like in Fort Lauderdale, stuff like that. But anyway, I just wanted to thank you for you guys' time and congratulate y'all on your show.
Thank you very much,
Albert.
More. Yeah, thank you. You and April have a good night.
All right, you too. Y'all take care.
You too. All right, let's see here. Is there a new person? Okay, yes, there is a new person in the queue with the ending of the phone number 9695. You are now on air. What's your question?
Good evening, Christopher and Joanna. Congratulations on your great new show. I'm really excited to hear the future episodes and what you have to offer. You're both very gifted, and I'm sure I'm not the only one looking forward to your future shows. Listening to the previous caller and question, I just started wondering when or even if the Archons and the Draco have ever been in fear mode themselves.
Yeah, that's
for others.
Yeah, this is very interesting because I've noticed their reactions lately have, like I said, stepped up. They've stepped up their game lately, but they've also, like beings like the Greys, for instance, and the Archons, they're doing things in a rushed way, doing some things very sloppily done. This shows that they are in a desperation mode, fear mode, and I've sensed fear coming from them. See, the sensing of the thoughts goes both ways, and if something's trying to evade my mind, if they can read me, I can read them right back. And any of the Archons that have recently tried to attack us, I've sensed nothing but fear coming from them. We're not the ones experiencing fear from them anymore. Now they are experiencing fear from us because we are becoming more authentic to ourselves. They are afraid of the whole status quo changing. They don't want to change. These are species that are very slow to change. So the future, they're afraid of it. They do not know what to expect.
They're not in any way accustomed to being on the other end of this, then.
No, they've never been on the other end of this. They don't know what to expect, or at least they don't know they've never been on the other end of it. So the Archons and the Draco, I found out, are periodically oppressed by artificial intelligence, but the ones that either don't know they've been oppressed or have never been oppressed are the ones that are in fear mode at the moment.
Wow, it sounds like there are a number of rabid animals being cornered now in that respect.
Yeah,
and just to add to that conversation, I always like to tie it all around in a nice bow. Is is the why. Why are they so afraid? And I think from what we've been told is that what we don't yet really understand about ourselves, the human race, and who we are versus who some of these other races are, is that we're kind of like mutts. You know, when you look back and you see about the creation of this skin suit that our soul is in, is that, you know, a lot of races put little pieces of themselves into this little stew that makes up the human skin suit. And so, believe it or not, we have certain abilities in our DNA that when they cut on, we're really an impressive race. We have co-creative skills that maybe these other races don't have. So there's reasons why they want to keep the lid on us, because not that we would be aggressors, but we really have some impressive skills, and that understanding and learning to be co-creative and all of those different things, and especially if we do it as a collective bunch, it's impressive. It's scary to some of these other races because they know that they cannot control us anymore, and they want to keep that lid on us. And so it's not just as simple as you think. There are actually real reasons why they want to keep us down, because they will lose the ability to control the human race, because we have DNA given abilities that are going to cut on, and we will not be able to be, let's say, kicked around anymore. But we don't know that yet. And that's why they do everything to keep everyone down, to keep you doubting yourself, and to keep you, you know, always waiting for another shoe to drop, because you have these co-creative abilities, and they're going to always get you to keep focusing on creating what they want versus creating what we want. And so if you're thinking about it, you're starting to create it. If you're thinking about if you're constantly in fear, you're just going to create more fear. If you're constantly waiting for a shoe to drop, then you're going to get more of just waiting for a shoe to drop. And so that's really the difference. You know, it's the one thing that was said to us a while back that people need to understand when they're learning, and we'll talk about it more next week, is it really is the concept of the peace, love, and family. You know, gravitate towards things that give you inner peace. And if watching the TV at night does not give you inner peace, turn it off. Work on inside and gravitating towards that, so you can stop listening to this other stuff that wants you to co-create something else, and start living and dreaming and feeling and seeing down the road how you want to act, feel, smell, taste, so you can start co-creating that. So start co-creating the concept that they can't bully you around anymore. And that's that inner, bringing out that inner God source in you. So,
well, thank you,
just
so
try
much,
and
Joanna,
keep that in
for
mind.
That brings up one little last question I'm hoping that I can ask.
Sure.
With the knowing that we have these new energies that we're having to work with, will this be triggering, activating our DNA automatically in some cases?
Yes, I believe that is true. I've seen these energies actually bring out DNA that's been buried for many centuries. There was a guy that came to me one time. His name was Lomos, and he was an Anunnaki scientist who said when they helped create the human race, they put in what was known as epipogenic DNA. And what this epipogenic DNA eventually became linked with was the junk DNA. The junk DNA are these skills that are dormant, and certain energies were supposed to come about in our current century in order to unlock these skills. And Lomos told me that it was a natural unlocking that they put in there of different skills, different ability sets, skill sets, everything, mindsets, and these different energies that were going to come through here would automatically start unlocking these different skills. He explained it to me in detail of how his people had to go through the same process. So he knew in creating a progeny species that their children would have to go through the same process in order to become either just as evolved as them or even more evolved. Their hope was more evolved. And this is the process. This is how he explained it to me anyway.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that. You two have a wonderful evening, and I look forward to your next show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you called in tonight.
My pleasure. Take care.
Take care. Okay, let's see if there are any more callers in the queue. I'm going to scroll down here or scroll up and see if there's anybody left here in the queue. I'm not seeing anybody else, so I'm going to give anybody a minute that wants to come in and ask a question. And if there's no one else, we will do the blessing for the end of the show this evening. Let me see here. All right. I will give one more moment to see if anybody else shows. And no, doesn't look like there's anybody. So with that, I will do the ending affirmation and blessing tonight's show. This was a channeling brought to from a guide by the name of Jonas. Hopefully he will appear on future shows. A very interesting individual. He's a very lengthy history I won't go into right now. But his affirmation and blessing for this evening was this: may today be filled with merriment, and tomorrow be not present in your mind. Meaning, be happy in the now. Be merry in the now. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to come regardless. The only thing that matters is the current moment. This is what he was trying to stress with that affirmation. So, with that, I leave you with this. Thanks for joining us. Let me end this with a few announcements. This show will be able to replay as soon as it is finished by calling the free conference call replay number of 712-775-7039. Enter the participant code used in the live show, which is 356878. You will then be able to listen to the last recorded show. All other shows will be posted on the Lifting website. I will be putting up an additional tab called Lifting Episodes. This maiden show will be up in the next few days. Please watch for our weekly blog. We will post a new blog every Monday and discuss it further on Tuesday's show. Hopefully, between reading the blog and listening to the discussion on the show, you will be able to reflect and ask questions related to the topic. If you have questions after the show, please forward them to thelifting2017@gmail.com. Every other Thursday, starting January 19th, we will have a viewer's question show. We will choose questions from the audience to answer here. Depending on volume, we cannot guarantee we can answer all questions. If we notice a similar question being asked from multiple persons, we will also add the question and answer to the FAQ, Frequently Asked Questions tab. You can also schedule a personal reading from me or my mom, Katrina, by going to the website and clicking into the Appointment tab. Right now, I am filling appointments for March. Please be advised, due to the nature of what I do and the energy it takes to conduct a session, since I do bilocate, I normally do one reading per day. This is how I make a living, so it will be important to confirm these appointments several weeks out. Session costs are $125 for 1 hour and $200 for 2 hours. I will not go over a 2-hour reading in one session. Starting February 1st, the method of confirming the appointment will be by a $50 non-refundable deposit due 2 weeks prior to the scheduled appointment. If this deposit does not occur, the appointment will be canceled and then I will fill it with another client. If you need to cancel at that time, you are certainly free to schedule another time. Thanks so much for joining us tonight on this first episode of The Lifting. We look forward to chatting with you again next Tuesday, January 10th, 2017. Thank you, and good night, everyone.
Okay, synchronicity for the show. Before, I even mentioned Telnorskus was around, or slash Chuck, or Pilchuck, or White Chuck, when we were in Washington. Or Chuck was up there. He was one that channeled on that show, the World of Sasquatch, or the ones we were in Washington. Same with Scrumpy, that used that black skull. Anyway, where he got the name was Pilchuck, and we saw a white sign that said White Chuck on it for hooking up a boat. So, and then of course Isaac decided to call him Upchuck, and his friend Tom, he called him Tom Tom, and then the rest of them were Tom Tom and Upchuck. You heard that on Galactic Interstellar Council a while back when they were on. That was Telnorskus using that name. But the thing of it is, Joanna looked through her computer, and the pictures of Washington popped up on an old flash drive. So she figured that was a synchronicity towards who was talking, and felt that she was being directed to look at that material. One would say, oh, that was there already. But, it was why was she directed, and when she was directed to look at it, before she ever knew Telnorskus was around. So I'm happy he's back. So it's very interesting, the timing of all of this after all these years. So it is, and was protecting us from stuff in Japan and everything at the time. That Chuck was always Telnorskus, and I had forgotten about that for a time. I thought Chucky and Chuck were two different beings. One of the ones in Washington was also his grandson as well. That was also used the name Chuck or Chucky. So that got confusing. They did look a little different. The one that I channeled he also changed his face a little bit too. But he had relatives there that were using the name Chuck for whatever reason. Probably, again, because of Pilchuck. And also me seeing the White Chuck sign. So I believe it was both Telnorskus and his grandson we were encountering. So, yeah, both. I just heard both. So it is 5:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, April 30th, 2023. Thank you.